The Journey of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251, Plans and Situations. This is indeed a masterpiece. At least in my opinion, judging from its appearance, the person who designed it is a genius. In the warehouse of the 13th team, a huge mechanical arm has been hoisted, and Yang Mu is directing the maintenance team to hoist the mecha arm. Richard looked up at this thing and kept saying it in admiration, while Chu Song, who was standing next to him, smiled and shook his head, and the other party immediately cast a puzzled look. This is not only a masterpiece, but also the genius who designed this thing is right in front of us. What do you mean? Richard heard Chu Song's words clearly and immediately realized something. He asked with a shocked face, and Chu Song nodded. This may be one of the differences between us and him. When saying this, Chu Song had a hint of helplessness, and then Chu Song stepped forward and explained a few words to Yang Mu, and then left, leaving Richard standing alone at the door of the warehouse, looking at the hoisting mechanical arm and Yang Mu. The mecha mechanical arm designed by Yang Mu has two parts. One is the attack chainsaw with only the forearm and wrist, and the other is a complete mecha arm. The titanium alloy mechanical arm that Dulan built for Yang Mu was naturally complete, but it was made by the civilians after all. After Yang Mu used it, he found that the joints always felt uncomfortable, so now Yang Mu also disassembled part of the arm, only equipped with the forearm and the front attack chainsaw of the mechanical arm, and the large arm at the back was still equipped with a halberd mecha. This thing arrived at the camp of the 13th team yesterday, and Yang Mu started to assemble it early in the morning. The people of the 13th team observed the arm closely, and after hearing Yang Mu explain the use of this mecha arm, little stars flashed in everyone's eyes. It is specially used to deal with powerful creatures and has been used in some mecha adventure groups. Such an equipment that fits the current situation of zinking 4 stars is naturally favored by everyone. Several people immediately wanted Yang Mu to help get more, but Yang Mu could only say that he would try his best. After all, this is not standard equipment. Although the White Tiger Mecha Regiment is a first-class mecha regiment in the New Song Star region, it is still a general team. The equipment is all standard, with few internal modifications, and almost no private modification is allowed. Yang Mu was promised this, and the deputy commander who just knew that he had obtained new equipment said that he would come to see it in a few days. Yang Mu was eager to get this equipment out. The reason was that the battle that day left a deep impression on Yang Mu. Ordinary attacks would not cause much damage to the native creatures of this planet. If he hadn't been quick-witted and found the wound, the final thing might have become even more tragic. Although the equipment he designed has not been strictly tested, it has been used by the public and has been well received, so Yang Mu also wants to take this opportunity to try it himself and see how the experience works. And Yang Mu has another idea, that is, if this kind of equipment can shine this morning, it will be of great benefit in the future. Something that has been put into practice is far more valuable than something that only exists on the drawing. White Tiger Mecha Regiment, the Commander's Office. Chu Song. I now appoint you as the deputy captain of the first team. At the same time, the first team and the second team will be merged immediately to form a new mecha team. Chu Zio sat on the chair, looked at the two people in the office, and said to Chu Song who was standing in front of him. Chu Song agreed without hesitation, but frowned at the same time. He had just come out of the 13th team when he received a communication message asking him to come to the captain's office. Along the way, Chu Song always thought that his help in transporting mecha parts for Yang Mu was exposed, and he kept thinking about how to explain it when he saw the captain, but now, he has heard the new appointment news. His team will be merged with the first team, and at the same time, the equipment will be replaced and they will be under the direct leadership of the captain. This made Chu Song a little confused, and he also felt that such things would disrupt his original plan. In the past 2 days, I have also learned some news. The leader and the first team seem to have gone to a certain place to perform a mission, but this mission seems to be not going well. Only half of the mechas of the entire team have returned. In addition to the leader Chu Zio, the captain of the first team, Zheng Yuang, and another member who came back alive were injured. The others may have been buried somewhere. The bald man standing next to me now is Zheng Yuang. His left hand is still wrapped in bandages. During the conversation with him just now, he has to go to the treatment cabin for treatment today. I know this order is a bit sudden, but you also have to understand that the first team has suffered heavy losses, and the second Mech regiment has also suffered losses. We need to establish this team as soon as possible. After all, you are all the sharp knives of our regiment. From now on, you actively prepare, and the regiment will integrate the most advantageous resources for you to meet any of your combat training needs. Chu Zio's expression seemed very heavy. He said all the conditions he had considered, and asked the two to make some requests on the spot. Captain, if that's the case, I hope to let the people from the 13th team participate in the training. Chu Song suddenly thought of something and spoke. The 13th team? Are you interested in that guy named Yang Mu? Chu Zio immediately saw through Chu Song's intention. Chu Song was not embarrassed and nodded to indicate that it was correct. Okay, I agree. Anything else? Chu Song and Zheng Yuang didn't say anything next. Chu Zio just talked about some basic precautions and asked the two to leave. When he was the only one left in the office, Chu Zio crossed his hands and looked very worried. Before asking Zheng Yang and Chu Song to come to see him, someone had actually come to see Chu Zio. That person was Gray, the administrator of Colonial City 1. Gray, who had survived the exercise by chance, came to find Chu Zio this time, not to fulfill his promise to the Mecha Corps to pay him or to apologize for causing huge losses to the Mecha Corps, but to ask for help from the Mecha Corps. Colonial City 1 has had a big problem recently. It turned out that a few days ago, 5 expedition teams in Colonial City lost contact within 2 days, and the search and rescue team sent out also encountered an accident. What was sent back at the last minute shocked Gray. In a place less than 200 kilometers away from Colonial City 1. It seems that a large number of protozoa have gathered. The image information sent back shows that there are at least 20 level 4 creatures, hundreds of level 3 creatures and more low-level creatures gathered there. Later, Gray found from the aerial reconnaissance that these things were moving forward, and the distance from the last discovered destination had shortened by 50 kilometers. And their goal is the Colonial City 1 built by humans. Colonial City 1 has invested a lot of effort. It will be a springboard for humans on Zinking 4 stars and the first step for humans to turn it into a habitable planet. The founding city is about to be attacked. As an administrator, Gray will not give up and command to do everything possible to save the city. Saving Colonial City 1 is of great significance. However, the 4 troops and a flying squadron stationed on Zinking 4 stars are not enough to support such a difficult task. Among them, the White Tiger Mech Regiment, the first-class Mech Regiment, seem to have become everyone's reliance. However, the White Tiger Mech Regiment is now facing a shortage of personnel, damage to high-end combat power, and an upcoming transfer order. In the face of such a defensive battle, if there are too many losses, it will bring many difficulties to the subsequent garrison mission. What Chu Zio is facing at this moment is an extremely difficult task. This city defense battle must be fought and must be won. And there is another huge factor in this. That is, casualties must be minimized. It is not easy to have both fish and bear's paw. Chapter 252 A Flash of Inspiration. Another morning on Zinking 4 stars, the sun was shining in the camp as usual, and Yang Mu had just run back in the field outside the camp, sweating profusely. He had been here for half a month without realizing it. If it were at Kunlo College on Yanhuang Star and his home on Halen Star, it would be the end of October now, and the weather would gradually get colder, but on Zinking 4 stars, the orbits of the planets here just made the current stationing place in the late spring and summer season. The climate was hot, and Yang Mu's face did not have a relaxed expression. The reason was that he had just received an order yesterday that his Mecha regiment was going to be mobilized. Yang Mu thought that this transfer was to go to the Sonne Star region, but when he thought that Chu Song was still in the regiment, he realized that this time the ceiling was different, and the last news he learned was that the Mecha regiment was not going to leave Zinking 4 stars, but would go to Colony City 100 kilometers away from here and be stationed there. As for the reason, at the officers' meeting yesterday, the regiment leader Chu Zio had already said it without reservation. In the area less than 50 kilometers north of the first colony city, there are already thousands of planetary native creatures entrenched there. The other party has arrived there for a few days, but has stopped there and has not moved forward any further, but humans have to immediately launch defenses. What shocked Yang Mu even more was that among these native creatures, there were actually 20 level 4 creatures, and the characteristics of various creatures were different, covering both aerial and ground creatures, which would bring great trouble to human defense. The heavy firepower and flight squadrons needed to ensure the firepower support of important nodes in various parts of the city, and could not allocate a large amount of firepower to deal with these things at any time, while the rest of the infantry and ordinary armored forces were assigned to various places to establish 2 layers of defense circles inside and outside. Therefore, the biggest threat, many level 4 creatures, fell into the hands of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. However, the White Tiger Mecha Regiment only had 18 mecha squads, and this was the number of mecha squads after the 1st and 2nd squads were merged. The 15th squad was short of personnel, and the 2 guard mecha squads were counted. Among them, the strength of each team is uneven. The top 10 mecha teams are stronger, while the latter ones are slightly weaker. In addition, because a personnel transfer and expansion was just carried out a few months ago, there are relatively more new recruits in the mecha regiment. The maintenance forces of each team and the flight team affiliated with a mecha regiment have a large number of new recruits, and there is still a need for running in terms of combat coordination. However, what is now in front of everyone is undoubtedly a difficult defensive battle. Therefore, just how to successfully block the attack of the 20 level 4 creatures made all the officers in the conference room look worried. After a fruitless discussion, they all turned their eyes to Yang Mu, who was sitting in a corner of the conference room. This top student from a military academy was the first deputy captain to kill a level 4 creature. Feeling the inquiring eyes of the whole audience, Yang Mu shook his head helplessly, saying that he had no good suggestions, and even couldn't say any effective combat methods. He just mentioned the mechanical arm he assembled, hoping to entrust a relevant factory to manufacture it quickly in the name of the military and equip it to the troops as soon as possible. But Chu Xiao obviously did not agree with this idea, and just asked Yang Mu to sit down. And Yang Mu also knew why this method would be rejected. The same military supplies application was directly manufactured, not to mention the various complicated procedures. Just say that this mecha arm has never been used by the military, and the various performances are not well understood. If it is used rashly, it may even reduce the combat effectiveness of the troops. Yesterday, on the issue of how to defend against the 4th level creatures, no effective method was finally put forward. In the end, Captain Chu Xiao could only let everyone wait for an opportunity to act, dispatch teams with different combat power for different creatures, organize, and then cooperate with their firepower to kill the opponent. As for the firepower in space, Chu Xiao has clearly stated that because these creatures are very close to Colony City 1, using heavy firepower from space to kill them directly will definitely have a huge impact on Colony City 1, and the promotion may lead to a lose-lose situation, so this is the last resort. It's just that the Space Force promised to provide transport spacecraft at that time to ensure the retreat of everyone in a critical moment. The weapons that humans have always built are used to fight against humans, so these weapons are more targeted. However, when facing these fierce and powerful protozoa, once these weapons fail, the strength of the army will be greatly affected, and even the powerful weapons in their hands will become like fire sticks in such a battle. Yang Mu did not expect that he had encountered so many things not long after arriving here, and now this matter shows that the next battle will be a tough battle. But there is no way to do this. The duty of a soldier requires everyone to face difficulties head-on, so what Yang Mu wants to do more is how to change the status quo through different technologies. But now it seems that only he is equipped with a new mecha arm, which is not of much help for the current situation. Sighing, Yang Mu walked towards his barracks. After washing and having breakfast, at Kunsang's urging, Yang Mu quickly packed up his things and followed a transport convoy that was ready to go out. Throwing his luggage on the back of his mecha transport vehicle, Yang Mu grabbed the tarp and sat directly on the back of the mecha transport vehicle, following the rumbling convoy to the designated location. The sun gradually rose, and the warm sunlight sprinkled on Yang Mu's face, but it could not melt the solemn atmosphere of this mecha team. Our team is not bad. At least these mechas have been replaced. You don't know, the day before yesterday I went to the camp of the 15th team for a stroll. Guess what? Kun Sang's triumphant voice came from the headset hanging in his ear, and at the same time Liu Wei asked excitedly in the channel. What's going on? Tell me. Hey, our comrade Wei is sitting alone outside the hangar. There is nothing in the empty hangar. 4 people in their team have died. The mechas have not been replenished yet, and new personnel have not been assigned yet. It's very desolate, Comrade Wei. His face is full of sorrow and tears are welling up. Haha, you deserve it. Okay, both of you shut up. We are all comrades in the same regiment. Why are you making such sarcastic remarks? Shenlan scolded at the right time, and the two of them fell silent. Yang Mu also shook his head helplessly. These two guys seemed to have no sense of urgency for the difficult battle that might be faced next, and they were still talking and laughing. At this moment, a rumbling sound sounded, which seemed to come from the front. "What's the sound?" Yang Mu asked in the channel, and Kun Sang replied quickly. "Oh, it's a team of pioneers returning to the city. It looks like they have just been called back, but these pioneers look very unhappy." It turned out to be a team of pioneers. Zinking 4 Stars has been open to the public for more than a year, and it has attracted many development companies. The adventurer team was hired by various companies and administrative departments to participate in the development of Zinking 4 Stars. But now, this inexplicable crisis has disrupted everyone's pace, and they have to withdraw everyone back to the city, and even prepare to temporarily leave Zinking 4 Stars. The military vehicles of the team and the pioneer team on another road gradually merged together. The other party's vehicles stopped to let the military vehicles go first. Looking at the other party's vehicles parked on the side of the road, Yang Mu was also a little dazed. But suddenly, when passing by one of the other party's mecha transport vehicles, Yang Mu saw something that the other party had hurriedly covered with a tarp. A strange-shaped mecha arm was exposed, and Yang Mu immediately recognized what it was. It was the mecha arm he designed. A flash of lightning flashed through Yang Mu's mind, and a crazy idea burst out. He immediately stood up and shouted loudly into the headset. "Stop! Stop immediately!" Chapter 253 Requisition. The military vehicle slowly stopped, and Yang Mu jumped off the vehicle, then quickly ran towards the mecha transport vehicle of the pioneers not far behind. Yang Mu's vehicle was a little ahead, and when he saw Yang Mu's vehicle stop, the several transport vehicles following behind also stopped. All the soldiers and team members looked at him in confusion. Shenlan in front also stopped, got off the vehicle and walked towards Yang Mu. On the other side, the pioneer team saw the mecha convoy in front of them suddenly stop, and they were also confused, but at this time they saw a young man in military uniform running towards them. The people on the mecha transport vehicle also immediately notified the captain of their team. Yang Mu quickly ran to the somewhat shabby mecha transport vehicle, and then, regardless of the other party's questions, he climbed onto the vehicle and pulled open the other party's tarpaulin. Pulling open a corner, the parts in front of him were more clearly displayed in front of Yang Mu. Yes, this thing is the mechanical arm he designed. Yang Mu's sudden crazy action made the people around him feel nervous. The young officer seemed to have discovered something, and he actually went straight to the mecha. After seeing it, he showed a surprised expression on his face, which made everyone feel a little uneasy. At this time, a rough hand pulled away everyone's shoulders and walked forward. The man who came was a one-eyed man, and he was also the captain of this pioneer team, Tulu. "Sir, I don't know if there is anything we can help with." Tulu naturally saw Yang Mu's actions, and seeing that the other party seemed to be very interested in the new weapon that his team had just equipped, he immediately cheered up. Although the army here would not make things difficult for him, it was a mecha used by civilians after all, and it had been officially reported before, but he had not reported the new equipment he was looking at now. Now the other party looked at this strange-looking thing, which inevitably made people guess. "Where did you get this thing?" Yang Mu heard the other party's greeting, and immediately did not hesitate, pointing directly at the mecha arm and asked. When Tulu saw that the other party had directly asked the key to the problem, it seemed that he had discovered something. He hesitated for a moment, and a few bloody thoughts flashed through his mind, but he gave up. The convoy in front of him was the convoy of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. Even if he wanted to cover up something, if the two sides fought, with his own forces, he might be defeated by the other side in minutes. They were the army, and the mecha equipment was the most advanced and excellent. So Tulu decided to tell everything and admit his mistakes directly. "Sir, this is my mistake. This thing has just arrived not long ago, and we haven't had time to report it. But don't worry, as long as we return to Colonial City 1, we will immediately report the data of these mecha arms," Tulu said respectfully, but Yang Mu noticed a detail and asked in surprise. "You mean, how many of these things do you have?" Yang Mu's tone was full of joy and excitement, and there was no trace of dissatisfaction or anger at all. This made Tulu even more confused about the purpose of the young officer in front of him, but he also nodded and said truthfully. "There are 3 more. I wanted to buy more, but they are too expensive. But they are very useful." Tulu said the truth. This thing started to spread among the pioneer teams not long ago. At first, it seemed that a team killed a swamp crocodile with hard skin by using this equipment during a planetary exploration mission. Then everyone gradually found that this thing is omnipotent. First of all, it can be used to open the way. Whether it is plants or stones, it can be easily cut. At the same time, when facing some creatures with hard skin, this drill with a rotating chainsaw can quickly help you tear open the opponent's defense and easily defeat the opponent. This thing is very expensive on the black market. A complete mecha arm costs up to 3 million yen Huron coins. Because the manufacturer was in a hurry, some people have begun to imitate it. However, I still got a few of these arms with my connections. I was going to shine in this pioneering action. Everything was going well. This thing even helped my team easily kill several level 3 creatures. It brought me a lot of help. But before long, they received a message of retreat from the colonial city, saying that a large number of protozoa were about to attack the colonial city, and the administration department asked everyone to return to the city to help defend the city or return to the space city. Tulu was a little discouraged and was ready to go back, but he ran into this mecha regiment on the way, but he didn't expect that the other party would find something when passing by, and such an incident occurred. When Yang Mu heard that this team had a total of 4 such mecha arms, he was very happy. And at this time Shenlan also came over and asked Yang Mu why he stopped now. After Yang Mu briefly told the other party about this matter, Shenlan was obviously stunned for a moment, but he also immediately realized the use of such things, and then he revealed his identity to the captain of the other party and asked to requisition these mechanical arms. Hearing that the team in front of him wanted to requisition these things, Tulu's face froze, and he was a little embarrassed. And the pioneers behind him who knew that these things were precious also came up, and seemed not to want to give these things to the army. To be honest, these things are too valuable. Although we understand the wartime regulations, we are requisitioning them like this. Tulu explained to Shenlan with difficulty, and at this time Yang Mu stepped forward and said directly, I know your difficulties, but we are requisitioning these things now. After this battle is over, I will return you 4 new mecha arms. Yang Mu immediately promised, and Tulu raised his eyebrows when he heard all this. Sir, although that's what I said, but Tulu seemed to be a little worried, and Yang Mu responded immediately. He took out a note from the army, signed and sealed it, and then handed it to the other party. I understand what you are worried about. This is our LU with my signature on it. After this battle, you can come to my mecha regiment to collect it. If you still don't believe me, I can give you another way. I'll write you a note. You can go directly to the Jaimu Minglan factory to pick up your new mecha arm. I promise that they will provide it unconditionally, and the new mecha arm will be of that quality. Yang Mu suddenly pointed at his mecha transport vehicle. Richard, who was standing not far away, understood from the headset and quickly climbed onto the vehicle to pull open the mecha's awning, revealing the new mecha arm that Yang Mu had hoisted for his mecha. A newer and more sophisticated arm suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Everyone in the pioneer team exclaimed. They didn't expect that someone in the military would use this mecha. And Tulu was even more surprised, because as far as he knew, this arm was currently only available on the black market, and there was no market for it, and the supply was in short supply. In addition, the other party just mentioned the name of the factory, and it was in that factory that he mentioned the goods. An officer could actually say so many things, and even show that his mecha was also equipped with this kind of equipment. These things constantly strengthened Tulu's trust in the officer in front of him. Finally, after a moment, Tulu gritted his teeth, nodded and said loudly, Then I believe what you said, sir. We are willing to dismantle this thing for you to use. Hearing the other party's answer, Yang Mu was immediately relieved. It's really hard to find it. I have been worrying about not being able to ask Toronto to send a few of these things in time, but now there are 4 in front of me. In this way, at least the 13th team can be guaranteed now. Yang Mu believes that this will greatly enhance the 13th team's survivability in actual combat. And if there are other pioneers in the city with this kind of equipment. Yang Mu suddenly felt that he had an idea. Chapter 254 The Secret Place in the City. The requisition plan for the mecha arm was successfully achieved. Tulu also agreed to follow the military convoy to dismantle the mechanical arm equipment on the mecha after arriving at the camp of Colonial City 1. Yang Mu also nodded in agreement. After that, Yang Mu also found out something else from the other party. It seems that there are many pioneer teams with this kind of mecha arm in this colonial city. As long as you look carefully, you should be able to find some more. Such a news undoubtedly brought a great surprise to Yang Mu. If this is true, it means that his idea will have a huge practical support. Although it is still unknown to persuade the various teams of the White Tiger group to try to equip this kind of mecha arm, Yang Mu feels that what he needs to do now is not to persuade all this with painstaking persuasion. What he needs is how to collect these things. Even if they are stored in a certain place, at the last moment, they will definitely bring very different changes. As the rumbling transport convoy slowly moved forward, Yang Mu, sitting in the back of the mecha transport vehicle, gradually discovered the different situation around him. Although it is still a mountainous terrain, many automatic robots have appeared around. These square robots with crawler chainsaws are humming and working, cutting down the surrounding trees one by one. Behind them, people wearing mechanical exoskeletons are transporting thick wood onto the car. The huge mining truck suddenly appeared here, loaded with wood and heading far away. Following his gaze, Yang Mu saw a place among the vast hills, where a large area was shining with metallic luster, and a number of cars were converging in that direction. It seems that there is a colony city there, and it seems that the people in front of him are now cutting wood, probably to clear the battlefield and facilitate the attack. As the convoy continued to move forward, Yang Mu also saw more things. There, tall buildings gradually appeared. But it was not a high-rise building, it was a huge mine drilling platform. But the initial mining had been completed, and such buildings were temporarily regarded as the main body of the city, and other buildings were slowly built from the surrounding areas. On a stretch of road near the hillside, there stood a row of cylindrical buildings, no more than a dozen meters high, but with a smooth exterior that showed a different temperament and style. Those were the locations of the city's administrative departments. Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded on the right side of the advancing convoy, and Yang Mu was immediately attracted to look over there, just in time to see a small hillside on the right. At this moment, dust was flying, and the soil on it was blown up, and the entire hillside was flattened out of thin air. At this time, Yang Mu also saw the mining trucks loaded with wood heading over there. And at the bottom of the hillside, a wall made of pieces of wood was being built. Thick wood was stacked layer by layer, and with this oil on the ground and poured concrete, a tall wall was slowly forming. It seemed that the colony was building a solid line of defense for the next battle, and at the same time, a tense atmosphere was created behind this busyness. The transport convoy slowly drove past a tall wall, and then followed the guidance inside to a camp behind the city. After stopping the car at the camp, Yang Mu asked everyone to help dismantle the Pioneer mecha arms and immediately hoist them to the Halberd mecha, and he called Tulu. Go find them now. Well, is there any difficulty? Not impossible, but it will definitely be difficult. Tulu heard that Yang Mu's intention to find him was to hope that he could take him to find those Pioneer teams to find more mecha arms. After hearing all this, Tulu thought about it, and finally hesitated for a moment, and still took Yang Mu out. The two of them left the camp of the mecha group together and walked outside. The colonial city is not like other human cities. Everything here is still under construction. There are no women and children on the unfinished streets. There are pedestrians walking sporadically on the empty streets, and they are all big men. Among them are people from the administrative department and various pioneer teams. At the same time, military vehicles pass by on the streets from time to time, carrying batches of fully armed soldiers. The entire city has entered a state of combat. It seems that the attitude of the administrative office and the military is to defend this city to the death. Tulu led Yang Mu along the way, but he didn't say anything. He just took Yang Mu around and finally came to a narrow alley. The buildings on both sides were iron sheds. If Yang Mu guessed correctly, these things were still used to store various resource ores that were mined at the beginning, but after the city expanded, these things were used for other purposes. For example, the warehouse that Yang Mu entered next looked all mottled rust on the surface, and there was no one guarding the door. But when Tulu pushed open a small door on the side of the warehouse, bursts of noisy sounds suddenly came from inside. As Tulu walked in together, the sounds inside became louder and louder, and the sound of dong-dong came one after another. It took Yang Mu a while to hear that it was still music, and at the same time, there were all kinds of shouting and cheering sounds coming from inside. And after Tulu walked a few steps further in, Yang Mu saw that most of the people inside were naked, or wearing strange clothes, surrounded by smoke and lights. It seems that this is a gathering place for pioneers, and it seems that a lot of people have gathered here. There was a clanging sound under his feet. Yang Mu looked down and found an empty wine bottle. Drinking is not allowed in the newly built city, but these people got these from nowhere. It seems that they ignored the rules of this city. Yang Mu didn't care too much about these, just follow Tulu inside. But the people around who saw Yang Mu didn't think so. Hey, the guy in front, stop, a heavy voice sounded not far behind Yang Mu. The voice was loud and attracted the people around him, and then they all looked in the direction of Yang Mu. A man in a neat military combat uniform appeared on this occasion, and some people sobered up instantly. Yang Mu and Tulu stopped and turned around. Tulu turned his eyes at this time, smiled, and walked towards the man. Old Hu, long time no see, haha. Tulu laughed and walked over there, opening his hands to hug the gloomy, white-faced and beardless guy in front of him. But the slightly skinny guy pushed Tulu away with a gloomy look on his face. A younger brother beside him immediately grabbed Tulu, and the guy called Lao Hu by Tulu walked forward and looked at Yang Mu with burning eyes. The people around him also stopped and looked over here. Suddenly, several big men in uniform emerged from the crowd and surrounded Yang Mu. Yang Mu touched his nose. Sure enough, he was too conspicuous to walk in like this. Even in a city that is almost militarized, he still looked a little out of place in this somewhat private place, dressed like this, and attracted attention. And with his current identity, the other party's attitude is not good. Chapter 255, Bargaining. Hu Fei walked forward with a gloomy face. Seeing the young man in military uniform in front of him, Hu Fei was extremely alert. Zinking 4 stars began to recruit a large number of pioneer teams a year ago. Hu Fei was almost the first to arrive here, but he was not able to get a good return here. Instead, he encountered a level 4 creature and almost the entire team was destroyed. Only he escaped. Hu Fei, who was originally down and out, was very distressed about how to go in the future, but he accidentally discovered a business opportunity. This semi-militarized city has not yet provided a place for these pioneers to entertain. The city has just been established and has not yet introduced formal residents. At the same time, each pioneer team is hired. The daily task is to go out to explore resources, then return to the city to replenish supplies, and then set off again. It doesn't matter for a short time, but for a group of rough pioneers, such boring days are simply doomsday if they are repeated for a long time, and friction and trouble in the city are gradually increasing. It was not until a pioneer complained to Hu Fei that there was no place to play and have fun here that Hu Fei instantly understood what he could do. Hu Fei almost spent all his family wealth to open this bar hidden in an inconspicuous small warehouse. Now, this bar has become a paradise for all Zinking 4-star pioneers, where they can have fun and do some shady deals. And he has become a person who can speak for himself. These pioneer teams almost have to give him face, and even look at his face. Because of this, he is most afraid of the arrival of one kind of people, that is, official people. But now, just when he was careless, a man in military uniform appeared in his territory. If it weren't for the younger brother to report it in time, I don't know what kind of trouble would happen next. Hu Fei tilted his head and walked forward with a suspicious face. His eyes swept over every part of Yang Mu's body, and then fell on the other's shoulder strap. This guy is actually a junior lieutenant. And this armband is from the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. The sudden discovery made Hu Fei's pupils shrink, and he quickly dispersed some of the thoughts in his mind. Although the man in front of him had a young face, the shoulder and armbands on his body were too intimidating. Being equipped with such shoulder and armbands showed that this person was an officer of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. What is the White Tiger Mecha Regiment? It is the most outstanding mecha unit here, and it is a unit that can easily kill level 3 creatures. I heard that recently someone can kill level 4 creatures alone. With such ability, coupled with those superior mechas, they can destroy their group of ants at any time. The man in front of him is still an officer. If the other party disappears for no reason, then he will really be in trouble. The expression on Hu Fei's gloomy face gradually eased a little. He looked at the young man in front of him with a calmer tone and asked, I don't know what this commander wants to do here. Yang Mu heard it and was about to speak, but Tulu, who was detained on the side, spoke directly. Old Hu, this is an officer of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. He is not here to cause trouble, but just to find something. Tulu was eager to exonerate himself. After all, if he offended the man in front of him for no reason by bringing Yang Mu in, then it would be difficult for him to survive in the Zinking 4-star pioneer circle in the future. Oh? What equipment? Hearing Tulu's explanation, Hu Fei frowned again, then looked at Yang Mu and asked. He had a lot of equipment here, and many of the equipment even had military products that were discarded by the army. He couldn't afford to track them down. Yang Mu scanned the faces of the people in front of him expressionlessly, and finally stopped at the face of the white-faced and beardless man in front of him. Looking for a mecha arm with a drill and a chainsaw. It should be the equipment that has only appeared in the Zinsong Star Domain Pioneer team in recent months, Yang Mu said lightly, and then pointed at Tulu. Let him go. I asked him to bring me here, and we have already requisitioned their equipment. I guess you should have some too. After Yang Mu's words, Hu Fei showed a thoughtful expression on his face. After a moment, he suddenly realized something and said with a smile. So the commander is looking for the Dragon Slayer arm, but requisitioning it? This commander is really saying it lightly, Hu Fei said, with no fear on his face, and even pointed to the site and said to Yang Mu. This commander, I do have what you are looking for, and some pioneers here also have such equipment, but it's difficult for you to requisition it just like that. As soon as the voice fell, a piece of gray cloth suddenly fell from the left side of the crowd. With a dim light in the warehouse, Yang Mu could see clearly what was on it. It was a mecha arm, which was exactly what Yang Mu was looking for, and in the other person's mouth, this thing was called the Dragon Slayer arm. Yang Mu turned his head and took a closer look, then looked back at the other person, thought for a moment, and said to the other person, I can write you an IOU and requisition all of them temporarily, and then, oh, requisition all of them? This officer is so arrogant. Yang Mu wanted to give a solution, but was interrupted by Hu Fei immediately. The other party looked at Yang Mu arrogantly and walked forward. Do you know how expensive these things are? Let alone other things, just such a thing, with your salary, I think you may not be able to afford one, right? As he said this, the other party lowered his eyes to look at Yang Mu's shoulder badges. Besides, if you want to talk to me about requisitioning such expensive materials, don't you think you should find someone with some weight to talk to? With your military rank, well, I'm sorry I can't obey your order. Hu Fei said this in front of Yang Mu, and then he was about to call his men to send Yang Mu out, but at this time Yang Mu took 2 steps forward and said to the other party calmly. You don't have to lend it to us, but you should know that if you don't lend it now, there will be another result. If I report these things to the regiment, I will find someone who is qualified as you said to requisition them. I believe you also know that if it is in the form of official documents, the compensation for your things may not really make up for the loss, and if you agree to my requisition now, I can write you an IOU, and you can find me later or go to the Jimu Minglan factory to pick up the goods. Yang Mu said this, and the other party was stunned for a moment, but after a moment, the other party laughed loudly, then turned around and looked at Yang Mu. Sir, don't you think your words are very unconvincing? I have always been the only one who took things from others. This allows others to get something for nothing. Do I look like someone who would agree? Hu Fei once again expressed his attitude, that is, he would not accept Yang Mu's request. The reason is Yang Mu's current status. For such a person, Yang Mu has neither credibility nor deterrence. In addition to being able to ensure his own safety, it is absolutely impossible for the other party to take out something valuable. Yang Mu also realized this immediately. Although he had already made some plans in his mind, he still didn't want to use this method unless it was absolutely necessary. But now it seems that he has to do this. As far as you know, how many of these Dragon Slayer arms are there? 21. Oh, except for Tulu and his men. Are they all in the city? All of them? The 2 people's words made the people around them a little confused. Although Hu Fei told the truth, he didn't understand what kind of bargaining chips this lieutenant in front of him could bring out. This, sir, please forgive me for being rude. In short, there is no room for negotiation on this matter. Even if you want to force it, it's difficult, Hu Fei said loudly, with a playful expression on his face. What if I use the blueprint of this Dragon Slayer arm in exchange? What? A sudden word came out of Yang Mu's mouth. Hu Fei was stunned for a moment, not quite understanding. I said, I have the detailed mechanical drawings of the Dragon Slaying arm in my hand, and I will use them to exchange for your Dragon Slaying arm, Yang Mu said firmly, and this was Yang Mu's last resort, to exchange his drawings, because Yang Mu knew that his drawings were now only owned by the mecha researcher, Duolin, and the patent office. However, the patent office concealed an important part when applying for it, and that part would be the key to whether the mecha arm could function normally. This way, there would be no way for others to steal the design, and things made by copying others would be useless after all. When Hu Fei heard this, His first thought was how could it be possible, and then he thought Yang Mu's words were very funny, and he laughed out loud immediately, and the people around him also laughed, and they thought what the young man said was ridiculous. Haha, kid, what a joke. Do you know how sophisticated this thing is? Such a powerful thing. Nowadays, no one can copy it, right? Is the problem all about the power conversion between the arm turning and the double-layer rotating chainsaw? Not only is there no way to make the chainsaw rotate out of step, but the energy cannot flow back, and the energy consumption will be even greater, right? Yang Mu continued to speak indifferently, and the people around him were still laughing. However, after hearing these clearly, Hu Fei's expression changed, his eyes flashed a few times, and he put away the smile on his face, raised his hand and said loudly, "Quiet." Chapter 256 Live Production. Quiet, Hu Fei shouted loudly in the whole venue, and the surrounding noises suddenly stopped. Everyone looked back at the venue again, their eyes swept across Hu Fei's face, and they didn't know why he suddenly said such a sentence. Hu Fei looked at Yang Mu beside him with a serious expression, and there was a light flashing in his eyes from time to time. I don't know what he was thinking. Yang Mu's words just now really moved Hu Fei. Although no one here is trying to imitate the dragon-slaying arm, it doesn't mean that I don't have this idea. When I went to other planets to do business a few days ago, I heard several black market leaders talking about this problem there. They got the drawings from the patent office, and then found a ready-made dragon-slaying arm, and imitated it according to the drawings and the real object, but in the end they hid a wall. First, the blueprint seemed to be missing a key part. At the same time, when the complete dragon-slaying arm was disassembled, the parts in that key part were fully encapsulated and had to be forcibly dismantled. After the dismantling, a piece of what seemed to be an energy storage device inside immediately destroyed and exploded. When it was forcibly opened, it was already a pile of black, and nothing useful could be learned from it. According to that person, this component is the most important. It will determine whether the several main components of the entire mechanical arm work in coordination, and at the same time give the arm the maximum energy recovery and utilization, and truly exert the power of the mecha arm. However, this problem has never been solved. The person also admitted that this is an extremely confidential and advanced technology. Unless the most detailed drawings are obtained, even if the people under his command are very capable, they will not be able to replicate it for a long time. As for the giant Muminglan factory, when the pioneers knew that the dragon-slaying arm came from here, looking at this small factory, it is not that the pioneer team did not have the idea of drawings, but after some understanding and frustration, everyone knew what kind of factory it was. The factory has a big background, involving a heavyweight group famous in the universe. Not everyone in the entire New Song Star region dares to mess with this group. The first batch of people who tried to attack this factory had their legs broken and were severely warned. As a result, the Dragon Slayer arm is still a rare item, in short supply, but it makes a group of people who covet it helpless. But now, a person appeared in front of him, saying that he had the design drawings of the entire Dragon Slayer arm, and then accurately stated an important problem in the imitation of this thing. This made Hu Fei pay attention. Why? Boss who should know something about what I said. Yang Mu almost had a keen insight into the expressions and attitudes of such people. When the other party began to show different emotions, Yang Mu knew that the chip he threw out had worked. Since the other party took the bait, he could pull the other party up step by step. Boy, although you say so, there is no evidence. How can we believe your words? Hu Fei said coldly, but Yang Mu smiled at the corner of his mouth and spoke. How about we make a bet? Hu Fei raised his eyebrows and said, oh. How to do it? Just take the things that boss who cares about the most. I will make the part that you want the most now. Once it is made, you agree to give it to me, and I will give you the complete drawings, and you can find someone to verify it at any time, Yang Mu said lightly. The other party hesitated for a moment, but still nodded and agreed. Okay, you do it now, in front of so many people. As long as this thing is made and useful, then I, Hu, will agree. I will risk my life to find you all the things you want today, Hu Fei said aggressively, but Yang Mu was not afraid at all. He nodded, and then Hu Fei led Yang Mu to the side of the warehouse. Behind the few people, there was a group of pioneers, and everyone swarmed over, because they all understood what might appear next and what these things would mean. Hu Fei led Yang Mu to a compartment on the side of the warehouse. There were several workbenches inside. On one of the workbenches, there were some equipment. The parts on it were disassembled into pieces, but around them were large-scale parts of the same specifications. Yang Yu immediately understood what this room was used for. A place dedicated to imitating weapons. Do it here. I have all the things here. It depends on how you make it. Hu Fei seemed to not care about letting Yang Yu see these things. He was just eager for Yang Yu to make what he said. Yang Yu glanced at him, then walked straight to the workbench, picked out various tools, and then found various materials. Finally, he looked up and said to Hu Fei, "Come and help me with 2 people." Tulu stepped forward at this time. Hu Fei glanced at the people in the field and walked up himself. The iron forging furnace next to the workbench began to work, and Yang Yu also began to make various parts on the workbench with tools. Yang Yu had also learned systematic forging technology at Kunlun College. Although it was relatively complicated to manufacture this thing, and even required very precise machine tools, Yang Yu was the one who drew this blueprint. He knew that this thing could also be made in a rougher way, but its lifespan would be relatively shorter, but its function would not be greatly weakened. So in such a rough environment, Yang Yu was able to do it. The sound of ding-dong suddenly rang out in this small room, and a circle of people stood around, all staring at Yang Yu's movements in front of them. The sound of metal processing lasted for a long time, and the whole compartment was filled with the smell of various processed metals. When everyone was already a little decadent and tired, a round object slowly formed in Yang Yu's hands. The work had reached the final stage, and Hu Fei, who was standing aside and no longer needed to help, was shocked at this moment. He took out a camera from somewhere and began to record the movements in Yang Yu's hands. Yang Yu didn't pay attention to these things, but just focused on making the things in his hands. He slowly put the parts of the objects in his hands one by one, and finally sealed them in a vacuum furnace. An adult's palm-sized thing suddenly appeared in front of everyone, and Hu Fei's face was excited at this moment. This thing is exactly the same as the one he saw in the dragon slaying arm. But excitement is excitement. Although this thing has been made, whether it can still be used depends on the next situation. Seeing that Yang Yu has finished, Hu Fei pointed to a dragon slaying arm next to him that had been taken by his men. "Try it in here." Yang Yu did not refute, nodded, then walked over with the things. Removed the original part inside, and then carefully installed this thing in, and then restored the various parts of the mecha arm. The much-anticipated scene is about to arrive. Hu Fei and a group of pioneers are all tightly surrounded at this time. Everyone even held their breath, dared not blink, and stared at the state of the dragon-slaying arm. Yang Yu connected the energy battery, and the mecha arm suddenly lit up slowly from the upper arm, then gradually extended to the lower arm, and then the drill bit turned, and a humming sound was heard. The first step was successful, and everyone immediately stared at the double-layer rotating chainsaw on the drill bit. The next moment, the chainsaw suddenly made a clicking sound, and then everyone saw that the 2 layers of chainsaws began to rotate in opposite directions, and each of the components began to operate. Everyone's breathing had begun to become heavy. After waiting for a moment and testing several operating methods, Yang Yu pulled the energy battery over. After connecting to the test instrument, a line of numbers suddenly appeared on it. The energy consumption of a fully energy battery after connecting to the mecha arm was less than 1,000th. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Success. Looking at the mecha arm in normal operation and the satisfactory power data, Yang Yu put down the stone hanging in his heart at this moment, but the people around him felt as if their brains were hit hard several times, and they only felt a buzzing in their heads. The guy in front of him really made this thing. And the dragon slaying arm has been operating for 10 minutes, and the energy loss is only 1,000th. This thing not only achieves the same power conversion and staggered twisting, but also can really reduce energy loss. Such technology is simply amazing. Everyone's eyes gradually moved to Yang Yu, and some pioneers began to show different expressions on their faces. What is a dragon slaying arm? Each dragon slaying arm costs up to 3 million Yanhuang coins on the black market, and the person in front of him can imitate it. That is simply a constant source of wealth. As long as you control him, you control a cash cow. Hu Fei's expression at this moment also became a little strange, and the atmosphere in the entire compartment suddenly became completely different. Yang Mu slowly stood up, his eyes swept across everyone in front of him, and raised the personal terminal in his hand. This is a military personal terminal. My distress and location information can be directly transmitted in milliseconds through brain waves. In less than 5 minutes, you will be surrounded. So you should give up those unrealistic ideas. Yang Mu's words awakened everyone from their dreams. They remembered that the man in front of them was not an ordinary person, but a soldier, or an officer. I'll pay 1 million. Brother, make me 10 sets of this thing. Suddenly a voice sounded, and everyone turned their heads to look over. It was the captain of a pioneer team, who was looking at Yang Mu with burning eyes. Everyone immediately understood and shouted loudly. I'll pay 1,200,000 for 10 sets, 1,500,000. 10 sets, 2 million. 10 sets. The surrounding voices came one after another, and some were even angry. At this time, Hu Fei stood up, called his group of brothers, silently took away the mecha arm, and then moved to stand in front of these people. Hey, everyone, listen to me. Hu Fei stood in front of the crowd, interrupting the excited beating, and looked at the guys in front of him with a bad face. For today, let's stop here. Everyone has their own things to do, so let's go first. Hu Fei said this, but he wanted to drive everyone away. Old Hu, you are not being righteous. At this time, an old pioneer spoke up, and it seemed that he also figured out the intention behind Hu Fei's words. That's right, Hu Fei, whoever sees it has a share. This is the rule of our pioneers. If you want to take this thing alone, no way. Although facing the threats of these people in front of him, Hu Fei's face did not show a trace of fear, but instead said to the people in the field. This matter is just words, no matter what I say, it all depends on what our superior thinks, but don't worry, Hu is not such a heartless person. As long as everyone brings the dragon slaying arms in their hands, 1 dragon slaying arm can be exchanged for 10 cores. If you don't have any, don't worry, 300,000 Yanhuang coins for 1 core. You are asking for a higher price. Mr. Hu, do you think we are easy to bully? Someone immediately retorted loudly, trying to incite everyone's emotions. But Hu Fei's face had turned cold at this time. Do you think I, Hu Fei, am so easy to bully? Hu Fei said sternly, and the surrounding brothers took out their weapons at this time, standing in various places and pointing directly at the crowd. Most of the people in the field had put away their weapons before entering the field, leaving only cold weapons on their bodies. Looking at the kinetic energy guns around them, they were also silent. Yang Mu, who was standing next to him, looked at this dog-eat-dog scene and felt extremely disdainful in his heart. These guys in front of him could be brothers and sworn brothers when they drank and ate meat on weekdays, but when it came to their own interests, they immediately turned against each other. The scene suddenly became very awkward, but Hu Fei laughed. Everyone should also understand that everyone is a hire team. Although they don't have to leave the station, they can't go to space for refuge. But you have to know that Hu has a way. As long as you cooperate obediently, I can let you leave here before the battle begins, and I can also guarantee that you will have what you want. This is a win-win situation. Think about it carefully. Hu Fei can be so arrogant because he still has some means in this city. Although he is an ant-like existence on other planets, he is the absolute boss in zinking 4 stars and in this pioneer team. Everyone seemed to be a little dazed by the situation in front of them. They began to calm down slowly, began to analyze the current situation, and then tried to bargain with Hu Fei. Yang Mu stood by and looked at the faces of these people coldly. Finally, after a long agreement, they reached an agreement and left one by one with satisfaction, and Hu Fei also looked at Yang Mu again. Yang Mu immediately understood, and without saying a word, he walked to the workbench, picked up a pen and started drawing. Hu Fei followed him flattered, and a moment later, Yang Mu handed a drawing to him. Hu Fei quickly took it, scanning it with shining eyes, but suddenly frowned. There's still half of the drawing. When you transport all 20 Dragon Slayer arms to my base, I will give you the other half of the drawing on the spot. Hu Fei was obviously caught off guard by Yang Mu's move. He didn't expect that this guy with an overly young face in front of him knew how to use means to clamp himself. He was immediately angry, but he understood the identity of the person in front of him, and looked away angrily. Yang Mu ignored him, but walked to the side, directly dragged the mecha arm that had just been used for testing with a flatbed truck, and walked out. This is the deposit. I hope Mr. Hu will keep his promise and deliver the goods tomorrow morning. At this moment, the relationship between the buyer and the seller has completely changed. Yang Mu has completely seized the initiative and led Hu Fei by the nose. Yang Mu had to take this precaution. The person in front of him was not a good person. If he still acted naively, it would be his fault. To deal with such a person, Yang Mu has his own way. Hu Fei was a little annoyed by Yang Mu's behavior, but for the sake of this drawing, Hu Fei still endured it all. Seeing Tula follow Yang Mu out, Hu Fei immediately called a younger brother next to him. Go and notify those who have the dragon slaying arm to deliver the things tonight. Yang Mu dragged the flatbed truck out of the warehouse. At this time, the sky outside was gradually getting dark. He didn't expect that he would stay in there for a whole day. In that dim environment, Yang Mu didn't feel any time passing. Tulu, who followed him out, was nervous at the moment. He was shocked by the behavior of the young officer in front of him. He never thought that the person in front of him could actually make such a mechanical arm. Yang Mu didn't care about Tulu's thoughts. He just dragged the mecha arm towards the camp. As the night got darker, the city showed no sign of stopping. People were still working hard outside, and even speeding up the progress. Because not long ago, the military's unmanned reconnaissance aircraft discovered something different. The huge beast army was slowly moving towards the city. At the same time, the size of the beast group seemed to have expanded by 1/3. Chapter 258 Wei Gang's Request. That's impossible, Comrade Yang Mu. Although I admit that you are indeed very capable, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to bring up what you said now? A man with the rank of Zhong Wei walked out of the camp holding a hat, and Yang Mu followed behind him with an earnest expression on his face. The other party stopped, turned his head and looked at Yang Mu impatiently and said, Comrade Yang Mu, don't mention this matter anymore. This is not within your scope of authority. At least I will never use it now. The other party rejected Yang Mu's request righteously, and then turned to get on a mecha transport vehicle next to him. This is the captain of the 7th team, and their mission today is to go to a completed wall location to set up defenses and prepare for the next battle. Yang Mu watched the mecha transport convoy leave, stopped where it was, and then sighed. Last night, Hu Fei delivered all the dragon-slaying arms in full, and Yang Mu certainly fulfilled his promise and gave the other party the remaining drawings. Since these dragon-slaying arms are all produced in standard specifications, there is not much difference between them, and they can be flexibly installed on the halberd-slashing mecha. Yang Mu also started to recommend such things to each team this morning, even if each team is only equipped with 1 or 2. Chu Song has already taken a batch, but Yang Mu didn't expect that he would not be able to give out the rest anyway. First, this thing was not required to be equipped through the order of the regiment, but Yang Mu wanted to give it to them privately. On the other hand, each mecha team disdains such things. A mecha arm collected from the public is to be equipped on the military halberd-slashing mecha. This is impossible and there is no possibility. Just like a long sword that has been with you through hundreds of battles, although you know it has defects, in critical moments, the swordsman will only think of his own long sword at the first time, even if there is another gorgeous and sharper sword in front of him. In this environment, in order to keep each mecha team with enough combat power, no one would take the risk of using the dragon-slaying arm given by Yang Mu, which had never been used. So this morning, although Yang Mu did his best to recommend this thing to the captains of each team, up to now, no team has accepted it. Yang Mu went through a lot of trouble to collect these things, hoping that they could play a greater role in the next battle, but now, perhaps it was a waste of time. At first, I thought I would get the things first, and then slowly persuade each mecha team to use this thing, but now, it seems that things are not going as I wish. It seems that I can only put these things aside first and ensure that they can be equipped at any time. Yang Mu turned around quite discouraged, lowered his head and prepared to go back to the camp to see if there was any good way to help solve this problem later. But suddenly a pair of feet appeared in front of him. Yang Mu raised his head and saw that the person in front of him was a person he was very familiar with, the captain of the 15th mecha team, Wei Gang. Wei Gang, with a full beard, stood in front of Yang Mu. He looked very depressed, but his eyes were very bright when he looked at Yang Mu. When Yang Mu saw him at first glance, he was stunned for a moment, and then looked at him in confusion. I heard what you just said. And I am willing to use it, Wei Gang said loudly, with a stubborn tone, but also a little hesitation. It seems that he was embarrassed to bow his head in front of his competitor. But the current situation forced Wei Gang to make such a choice. In the last exercise battle, because of his wrong command, the entire team suffered heavy casualties. 2 team members died, and the other 2 were seriously injured and sent to the space city. The mechas of the entire mecha team were completely damaged, and the spare mechas had not arrived. The whole team was in pieces. To a certain extent, the current 15th team no longer exists, because only Wei Gang is left, and he can't support it alone. But Wei Gang didn't want to retreat. Although he failed, he was still a soldier of the White Tiger Mech Regiment. Now the situation has become very tense, and there is no reason for him to retreat. But the serious problem also lies in front of Wei Gang. The mechas are all damaged, and the mechas in hand are not complete. The regiment has not approved new mechas. Wei Gang was originally going to go to the maintenance department to find out if there are any parts that can be replaced first, as long as the mech can fight. It doesn't matter whether it is new or not. As soon as he came out of the camp, he saw the deputy captain of the 13th team talking to the captain of the 7th team. Wei Gang followed and listened. Hearing that it was a mech arm, and the 7th team obviously rejected the other party's proposal, Wei Gang's heart moved. Since there is a ready-made mech arm, no matter whether it is useful or not, as long as the mech can have parts, Wei Gang decided to give it a try, so he made this move in front of Yang Mu. Hearing Wei Gang say this, Yang Mu raised his eyebrows and looked at the other party carefully. Wei Gang's sudden appearance and the other party's sudden request surprised Yang Mu even more. But after taking a look at the other party, Yang Mu understood why the other party made such a request. The other party made such a request now, obviously wanting to repair his mecha as soon as possible so that he could go to the battlefield. Wei Gang looked at Yang Mu's puzzled eyes, and his expression became hesitant, but he still gritted his teeth and continued. I made this request for my brothers. I want to avenge them, okay, then follow me. Yang Mu didn't pay much attention to it and said directly to the other party. Wei Gang was obviously stunned after hearing Yang Mu's answer, and then he followed Yang Mu's pace. Someone is willing to use this dragon slang arm, which is Yang Mu's pleasure to see. How could he not agree to such a request from the other party? Yang Mu brought the other party to his camp. At this time, Shen Lan and others were all there. Seeing Wei Gang following Yang Mu at this time, they all came over one by one, and the expressions on everyone's faces became a little strange. And Wei Gang was even more so. He lowered his head and didn't want to have any eye contact with the people in front of him. He's here to install that mecha arm, Captain. Do you have any objection? Yang Mu naturally saw everyone's expression at the moment, and immediately explained. Shen Lan stood by and looked up and down at Wei Gang, who was a little sloppy and listless, and nodded after a moment. Of course, it's all for the next battle, I can't disagree. Hearing this, Wei Gang immediately raised his head and looked at Shen Lan. With an expression on his face that was a little embarrassed and a little ashamed. He had tried every means to bring the other party down, but the other party completely forgot about the past. In comparison, how narrow-minded he was before. Sorry, it was my fault before. Wei Gang suddenly said this, and everyone in the field was stunned for a moment. The expressions on Liu Wei and Kun Sang's faces even had a hint of ridicule and disdain, but Shen Lan didn't say anything else, just let Yang Mu lead the other party to walk inside. Chapter 259 The attack begins. As night fell, on the northern wall of Colonial City 1, a large amount of wood was piled up to form a right-angled trapezoidal wall, with a vertical side facing outward and the slanted side facing inward. Heavy artillery was placed at intervals on the slanted surface. A team of soldiers driving mechas were patrolling the wall. Everyone, pay attention to the situation. There is still an hour before the change of guard. An officer in combat uniform said in a mecha, while staring at the situation on the holographic helmet and the instrument. Captain, this is the third day of patrol. Will those guys really come? At this time, the voice of a team member sounded in the mecha channel, complaining a little. It's been like this every day these days, and my eyes are swollen and painful, the soldier said lazily. It seems that the high-intensity patrol work every day makes him very tired. Yes, Captain, is this news true? What if these beasts don't come and our mechas are turned off because they are not well maintained? Other soldiers in the same team also echoed, complaining that their beloved mechas were not well maintained. What are you arguing about? This is an order from above, you must obey, the captain said righteously, refuting everyone's complaints. It's only been 3 days of patrol, and you're all complaining. Look at the White Tiger Mech Regiment. They've been on duty here for 3 whole days, and they haven't rotated yet. What do they have to complain about? They are the White Tiger Mech Regiment after all, a soldier whispered. Bullshit, with your lazy looks, you still hope to join this elite mech regiment in the future. You keep complaining all day long. You still want to join the A-class mech regiment, and the C-class mech regiment won't want to. You can't even do this little thing well, so just wait to retire in this infantry regiment. The captain's angry voice reached everyone's ears from the channel, and everyone's expressions froze for a moment, but no one dared to refute, and no one even dared to show an angry and disdainful expression. Because everyone knows that their captain was originally from the first-class mecha regiment, but because he was injured in the battle and could not return to his peak state, he gradually fell down because of the rating, and finally became the captain of the mecha squad of this infantry regiment. But even so, their old captain is still superbly skilled. No one in the team has ever defeated the old captain with a mecha. His strength is obvious to all. Strength is respected, and people with strength will naturally believe what they say. Do a good job of reconnaissance and pay attention to the surrounding situation. This is the last section of duty tonight. There will be time for you to do what you want to do later. The captain said this, and seemed to hesitate for a moment, and then continued. As long as this matter is over, I will take you to Zinking Star to play during my rest time. Okay, Captain, it's settled. Hearing what the old captain promised, everyone immediately cheered up, and their expressions were excited, as if they had seen the wonderful holiday that was coming. You, a bunch of idiots. The old captain looked at the group of people whose attitudes changed rapidly, and suddenly showed a helpless smile, but he didn't say anything else, but continued to concentrate on the surrounding situation. Captain, did you hear any sound? A moment later, a team member suddenly said in the channel, but his tone was full of doubt. Sound? What sound? The captain also stopped the mecha at this time and asked quickly. I can't tell, it seems to be a whirring sound, but it seems to be the sound of wind, the team member said uncertainly, but this sound in his helmet has always existed. The other team members also stopped the mecha and began to detect the north. Gradually, another team member said the same thing. Wind sound? When the two team members said this at the same time, the old captain had to take it seriously, but there was no such sound in his holographic helmet. The old captain controlled the mecha and stepped forward and stood in the other party's position. Suddenly, a whirring sound appeared in the old captain's holographic helmet, and at this time, a beeping sound sounded in the captain's radar instrument. The old captain looked at it subconsciously and found that several small red dots suddenly appeared on the blue instrument display screen, and they were flying towards him from the north. Captain! There is something in the sky, suddenly a team member shouted loudly, and everyone looked up at the sky. The old captain also looked up at the sky, but saw a round object falling towards him. The mecha sight immediately looked over, and the field of vision gradually pulled in, but he saw that the round object was clearly a huge stone. Enemy attack! Evade immediately! The old captain suddenly widened his eyes and shouted loudly, and at the same time suddenly turned his mecha around, stretched out his hand and pushed the two mechas next to him to the side. In the next second, a huge stone suddenly fell not far from everyone, bounced after hitting the wall, and rolled down the slope, making a noisy sound. The old captain sent the message almost the next moment, and the surrounding area suddenly sounded a shrill alarm, but suddenly, a deafening scream came from the sky. Hold steady, line up. Open the weapon racks, and fire flares. The old captain's roaring voice rang out in the mecha channel of the crowd. The soldiers hurriedly manipulated the mecha to stand steady, and then opened the mecha weapon racks with some trembling but not panic, and 4 flares immediately rose into the air. A yellow-white light suddenly lit up in the sky, and at this time everyone also saw clearly what the thing in the sky was. It was a huge bird, and at this time the other party was throwing stones from its 6 legs. Shoot! Fire! Shoot it down! The old captain issued an order again, raised the mecha rifle in his hand and fired fiercely into the sky, and at this time the surrounding team members were stunned for a moment, and then tremblingly said, Old captain, you, look to the north. The old captain turned his head in a hurry, and the anxious expression on his face suddenly stiffened, and then slowly turned into an extremely shocked look. In the north, a black line was rolling towards the direction of the city. The buzzing alarm woke up Yang Mu and others who were resting in the city defense area. Yang Mu jumped up almost immediately, and so did several people around him. Everyone stood up and looked in the direction of the flare. They saw that there was chaos over there, with a sound of gunfire and the light of laser cannons from time to time. The attack has begun. This thought suddenly popped up in Yang Mu's mind. And at this time Shenlan's personal terminal also received an order. Everyone get on the mecha. Prepare for battle. Shenlan's sharp voice sounded, and everyone quickly turned around and ran towards the mecha not far away. At this time, the maintenance team also started to work, starting to quickly check everyone's mecha, while turning on the transport vehicle's motion capture system, debugging the machine, and keeping an eye on the situation of each mecha. Yang Mu had been wearing a somatosensory combat suit, and at this moment he climbed directly into the mecha cockpit and put on a holographic helmet. The hatch closed, and rows of lights lit up in the darkness. Various data began to appear on the holographic helmet, and Yang Mu took a deep breath. Next, there may be a fierce battle. Chapter 260. Jijiji. A huge scream sounded in the mountains north of the colony city, and then there were many protozoa rushing towards the city at a rapid speed. On the wooden concrete walls built in the city, the fierce firepower of human soldiers was pouring out, spitting out dense bullet chains and laser beams, like whips lashing at the rolling beast tide. Buzzing, 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 a buzzing sound suddenly sounded on the heavy wall, and a self-propelled laser cannon was adjusted prone. The next second, a strong beam of light immediately erupted from the short muzzle of this laser cannon. The light shot out fiercely and swept across the bare land in the north that had been cut down. The powerful laser hit the beasts one by one, and then immediately burned a hole in their bodies, penetrated, cut, and swept to the other end. For a moment, screams and roars continued from the area where the laser cannon swept, but the heat limit of the laser muzzle also reached its peak at this moment, and the beam disappeared immediately. The air-cooled muzzle with white smoke began to recharge for the next time. Before it could recharge and adjust the attack direction, a huge stone came directly from the air, overturning and twisting the entire laser cannon, and also affected the infantry soldiers wearing combat armor next to it. The 7th level 4 creature appeared, a heavy armored hammer-headed beast, at location E2. At the same time, at the Colonial City Defense Command, the head of the regiment, Chu Zio, was standing on the General Command platform, looking at the various combat data images sent back by the surrounding unfolded projectors, and at this time a staff officer loudly reported the situation of the level 4 creatures. Which team is closest to there? Chu Zio asked immediately. The 4th and 13th teams. Let the 13th team go to battle, Chu Zio ordered immediately, and at the same time, the projection control screen in his hand clicked and a picture was transferred. In the picture, the front position of the beast tide has approached the entire wooden concrete wall, and there are also several agile 4th level creatures rushing in the beast tide, approaching the wall at the fastest speed. Let the 3rd, 6th, and 7th squads go down, and the heavy artillery regiment fire to clear the field. The flight squadron shoots down those things in the sky and must drive them out of our heads, Chu Zio said sternly. As the highest commander on the entire planet, Chu Zio, who has the rank of a major star colonel, has the right to take over all the troops here and make unified arrangements. Someone in the control room immediately issued an order, and in the entire control room, countless people were busy integrating battlefield information and quickly inputting it into the supercomputer to simulate the possible battle scenes that might appear next, and the staff and intelligent programs jointly formulated the next battle plan. Captain, the mecha energy block is used up, my kinetic rifle is also overloaded. In the infantry regiment mecha squad, several soldiers who had just patrolled the city were anxiously reporting the status of their mechas to their captain. Half an hour has passed since the beast tide emerged, and humans are also actively resisting. From just now to now, everyone's weapons have not stopped, and they have been firing fiercely. Now some people can't hold on any longer. The mechas have been used violently without stopping. These 3rd generation mechas and equipment, which are not outstanding to begin with, can no longer withstand such a high-intensity battle. When the old captain heard the news reported by the team members, he was also very anxious, but facing the countless creatures that have gathered under the wall, the old captain could not retreat. Jack, go to the weapons point and get new equipment to replace. Others, hold on. Now is the most difficult time. We must hold on, the old captain said with his eyes wide open and his face flushed. At this time, on the wall not far away from them, all dark green mechas jumped directly from the wall. Everyone saw that they were the mecha warriors of the White Tiger Regiment. Those advanced 4th generation mechas were now facing the beast tide with a mighty attitude. At the same time, the heavy artillery deployed in the city and on the slope of the wall opened fire at the same time. These firepowers were fired directly in a very fast time. One by one, the incendiary bombs fell into the beast tide, and then exploded violently, forming an unstoppable situation. At the foot of the wall, A hole was formed within a range of 100 meters. At the same time, the whistling sound of fighter planes came from the sky, and then beams of laser beams were shot out. This was the fighter plane attacking and expelling the flying creatures in the sky. Seeing all this, the old captain was immediately overjoyed. It seemed that the main force had begun to exert its strength, which would inevitably greatly reduce the pressure on his side. Hold on, the White Tiger Mecha Regiment and the main force have begun to attack, hold on. Brothers, everyone who heard the news was overjoyed. Everyone was immediately ignited with enthusiasm. One by one, they regrouped and launched a fierce attack again. But at this moment, a muffled roar similar to that of a cow suddenly came from under the wall, and then the old captain saw a huge creature suddenly rushing out of the billowing flames under the light of the flare and stepped out of a path. It was a four-legged animal with a heavy bulge on its head. The hard and smooth thing on its head looked very large and heavy. The old captain immediately focused his firepower on this creature, but the other party did not have any scars after firing bullets one by one. He was even surprised to see that in some places on the other party's body, the skin of the creature actually bounced the entire bullet directly. What kind of creature is this? Seeing this situation, the horrified captain also called loudly for his companions to focus fire on this unknown creature, but everyone's firepower did not hinder the other party too much. The powerful missiles only left some flesh wounds. At the same time, a heavy artillery shell fell next to the creature. The huge explosion did not shake the creature at all. The other party just shook its head and immediately woke up. Seeing all this, everyone gasped, but the creature was angry at this moment. It roared again loudly, and then suddenly swung its hoofs. The whole body, which was as big as a large transport truck, moved quickly towards the location of the city wall. This thing is definitely a level 4 creature, and it is going to damage the wall. Everyone, stop him. The old captain realized what this thing was going to do in an instant, and hurriedly ordered his men to fight back. And even called in an airstrike. But it was too late. The thing had already arrived in front of him, and there was no sign of slowing down. The old captain watched helplessly as the thing used the hard thing on its head to hit the wooden wall. There was a splash of earth and rocks, and the old captain and others standing on it were shaken. Everyone instantly understood what happened. The guy in front of them shook the place where they were standing. But it was far more than that. This huge impact directly caused cracks to appear on the entire wall, and then it suddenly burst open. A team mecha standing on the edge of the wall stepped on the air and fell down. Zhang Sun, the old captain, immediately saw the mecha next to him fall down, and immediately shouted in horror. But there was no other way. Zhang Sun in the cockpit also discovered this situation at the first time. He frantically manipulated the mecha, trying to get the mecha to stand up again, but the mecha did not respond at all. In the previous battle, the mecha did not have much energy, and the mecha engine had overheated. There was no way to make the engine twist the mecha in such a short time. The huge and heavy mecha fell straight down. But there was something different under this 10-meter dangerous wall. There was a level 4 creature. The old captain's eyes were bloodshot, and he ignored the obstruction of his companions around him and directly manipulated the mecha to jump down. Under the wall, Zhang Sun was struggling to manipulate the mecha to stand firm, and then suddenly heard a movement behind him. Zhang Sun immediately realized what it was. He turned around the fuselage tremblingly and saw a huge eye looking at him. It was that weird hammer-headed creature. Zhang Sun was so shocked that his body froze there, but the creature suddenly turned around and ran towards Zhang Sun. In the next moment, a mecha took Zhang Sun's mecha and rushed to one side. Zhang Sun looked over and found that it was the captain's mecha. "Captain!" Zhang Sun shouted excitedly. The two mechas fell to the other side together, but Zhang Sun found that the captain's mecha did not stand up again. At this moment, the old captain's face was full of anxiety and unwillingness. He had just jumped down in a hurry, and the landing point of the whole mecha was not found well. It seemed that under the huge impact, the leg joints of this mecha had problems, and he could no longer control this mecha to stand up. But at this time, the creature that missed had turned around again and launched an attack on the two people again. "Go! Zhang Sun! Go!" The old captain shouted loudly in the channel, but Zhang Sun stubbornly controlled the mecha to drag the old captain's mecha to the side to seize it. "Captain! Why are you coming down?" Seeing that there was no way to avoid this attack, both of them looked ashen. But the next moment, a roar suddenly appeared in the headphones, and then the old captain and Zhang Sun suddenly saw two mechas landing heavily in front of them. One mecha opened its shield to block in front of them, while the other mecha flew forward from the site and swung its weapon vigorously. Looking at the beautiful and gorgeous mecha shape and dark green paint, everyone's mind suddenly became clear. That was the White Tiger Mecha Regiment, the halberd-slashing mecha. Chapter 261 The Dragon Slaying Arm shows its power. The alloy engine whirred and turned, the dark green mech raised the weapon in its hand high, then turned sideways, all the engines behind it exploded, fierce flames spurted out, and the mech launched a fierce attack. In the left hand of the mech, there was a huge drill connected to the arm of the mech. Under the fierce driving force given by the mech, it whirred and turned, and then hit the waist of the fourth-level creature fiercely. The sharp turn and fierce drilling actually made a breakthrough. The entire drill actually broke through the defense of the opponent's skin and pierced in. The hammer-headed beast immediately let out a painful scream, and its ferocious forward steps suddenly became a little disordered. Another mech standing not far in front of it unfolded its shield, rushed forward fiercely, and directly flipped the hammer-headed beast aside. Yang Mu arrived here in time and launched an attack on this fourth-level creature at the most critical moment. The attack also worked, and the beast was immediately flipped over. Yang Mu, Yu and Kun Sang attacked from both sides. Richard stopped the beast from destroying the wall. Zio Wei immediately fires a wave of incendiary bombs at the periphery to block the influx of other beasts. Shen Lan quickly arranged everyone's tasks in the channel, and at this time she immediately landed beside Zhang Zihan and the old captain. The halberd-chopping mecha stretched out its hand and directly pulled up the two mechas, and then with the help of the powerful propulsion of the engine, it took the two mechas directly up. "No problem, Captain, just watch," Kun Sang also said proudly in the channel at this time, and at the same time, his right hand immediately raised, also a dragon-slaying arm, and the drill on it was whirring. Yang Mu and Kun Sang understood, and the two took advantage of the hammer-headed beast not yet recovered, and bullied it again and attacked it from both sides. At the same time, the firepower mecha controlled by Liu Wei landed heavily and directly opened the ammunition compartment behind the mecha, and fired all the incendiary bombs with red warheads. "Quick fight, quick decision," Shen Lan shouted loudly in the channel, and everyone responded, and then several mechas surrounded the hammer-headed beast. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to go deep from one side directly, and the dragon-slaying arm in his left hand turned wildly, and the drill with a flashing metallic light attacked the waist and abdomen of the hammer-headed beast again. At the same time, Kun Sang, who was standing on the other side of the hammer-headed beast, made the same move. But the next moment, the hammer-headed beast immediately counterattacked. When it saw that Yang Mu was about to attack it, the hammer-headed beast, knowing that the opponent's weapon was powerful, immediately turned its body and was about to attack Yang Mu with a huge hammer on its head. Seeing this situation, Yang Mu also immediately manipulated the mecha to retreat, while Kun Sang, who was on the other side, seized this opportunity and immediately moved forward. Kun Sang's dragon-slaying arm drill successfully drilled into the skin of the hammer-headed beast. The hammer-headed beast, in pain, actually made an amazing move at this moment. It raised its upper body high, and then quickly shook its head, about to attack Kun Sang, who was still attacking. Kun Sang also discovered this, and the mecha he was driving was an agile scout mecha. He also changed his body shape at the first time, and directly climbed over the hammer-headed beast to avoid the attack. The hammer-headed beast was attacked again and immediately let out a roar. At this time, several gun beams came, and Shen Lan spoke again. "Keep it away from the wall." Yang Mu, who had transformed into a melee mecha at this moment, naturally understood, and quickly manipulated the mecha to jump in front of the hammer-headed beast, attracting the opponent's attention. The hammer-headed beast was indeed tricked. When it saw the mecha in front of it, it immediately rushed towards Yang Mu frantically. The huge body ran, shaking the entire area, but at this time, another halberd-slashing mecha appeared on the right side of the hammer-headed beast, and it was charging with a hand shield in its stride. It was Richard's mecha, which had been looking for an opportunity on the side. With a huge inertial force of the mecha, Richard's mecha raised the shield and hit the hammer-headed beast fiercely. The hammer-headed beast was also caught off guard by this sudden attack again. It staggered and suddenly fell to the side, with its forelegs facing the sky. Good opportunity. Yang Mu and Kun Sang both discovered this wonderful opportunity at the first moment. The engines behind the two men burst out at the same time, and the two mechas rose at the same time and rushed towards each other. After the hammer-headed beast found that it was overturned, it immediately struggled to turn its body over again. At this time, the attacks of Yang Mu and Kun Sang had arrived. The two dragon-slaying arms showed a red light at this time, but the power was turned to the maximum. Yang Mu's attack arrived first, rubbing the opponent's head and directly hitting the opponent's front foot armpit. But the soft skin there made it impossible for the mecha drill to drill in for a while, and Kun Sang's attack received good feedback. Kun Sang's drill hit the hammer beast's buttocks hard, hitting the thigh bone there. The drill went deep, and the chainsaw popped out and started cutting. Meat and blood splattered everywhere, and the hammer beast on its side was also extremely angry at the sudden attack. The pain came, and the hammer beast struggled hard and stood up again. Kun Sang had to retreat, but Yang Mu suddenly glanced at the hole in the opponent's waist and spine where he had drilled at the beginning. He immediately controlled the mecha to draw an arc on the ground, and then faced the opponent's side. The dragon-slaying arm in his left hand was raised again, and the holographic helmet automatically aimed at the location of the wound. The engine behind it sprayed flames, and then rushed up directly. The hammer beast had just stood up and was extremely angry about the wound on its buttocks. It didn't notice Yang Mu's appearance at all. At this time, Yang Mu had raised his dragon-slaying arm and stabbed it hard. The red-hot drill bit, which was rotating at high speed, pierced into the small wound fiercely, and it seemed to break through the bone barrier immediately. The entire drill bit penetrated a little deeper, and at this time, the upper chainsaw blade bounced directly, and the double-layer chainsaw began to cut quickly. A deafening roar suddenly came from the mouth of the hammer-headed beast, with a painful roar. The next moment, the hidden muzzle on the arm above the drill bit also popped out, coordinating with the rapidly rotating saw blade. And a series of fierce bullets quickly drilled into the body of the hammer-headed beast, and then the bullets exploded into pieces inside the hammer-headed beast. Yang Mu could even see the sparks coming through the opponent's gray-black skin, and at this time the hammer-headed beast also fell to the ground with a bang, but it no longer moved, and blue blood flowed from its mouth and nose. At this moment, even the people in the 13th team were a little shocked. They couldn't even see how this level 4 creature died. Less than 5 minutes had passed since it first appeared, and this creature that was several points better than the mechas had just fallen down. When did it become so easy to kill a level 4 creature? This dragon-slaying arm actually had such a powerful ability. The mecha squad of the infantry corps standing on the city wall also saw this shocking scene. They did not expect such a surprising scene to appear here. An idea suddenly appeared in Zhang Zhan and others' minds. This is the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. This is the first-class mecha regiment they yearned for. Invincible, unstoppable. Chapter 262 Outstanding. Team 7 sent a distress signal. The Fair Spirit's attack is strong, and there are also disturbances from the surrounding creatures. We request for quick reinforcements. Team 18 was driven away by the sharp-headed rhinoceros, and some team members were injured. The wall of Area A2 is damaged, and it has become an obstacle to the upper level. One by one, the critical battlefield news quickly gathered in the entire command room. Chu Zio, who was standing on the command platform, frowned at this time. Although the army had already taken precautions against the beast tide's attack, and the attacks from various places were quickly in place when the beast tide appeared, the result was still unclear, especially after the 4th level creatures entered the field. The heavy firepower attack was weakened by the large number of low-level creatures. After the White Tiger Regiment's mecha team entered the battle, it was also unable to play a good role because of the huge beast tide. Now the situation of each mecha team has even begun to get worse. This situation undoubtedly puts his side in a very passive situation. The wall was broken through in an instant, and there are not many weapons in Chu Zio's hands. The 13th squad has killed the heavy armored hammer-headed beast and is heading to the 18th squad's battle site for reinforcement. Suddenly, the communicator excitedly said a battle report, which immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the field. A squad has killed a level 4 creature. The officers of other troops in the command room immediately stood up in surprise to confirm the news, and at this time, the command center staff had already broadcast a battlefield live on the screen. On the battlefield of the scorched earth, a huge creature lying prone on the ground appeared. It was the level 4 heavy armored hammer-headed beast, but at this moment, there was a huge open hole on the back of the hammer-headed beast, and its mouth and nose were full of blood, wetting a large area around it. Did it really succeed? Chu Zio immediately stepped forward, grabbed the railing of the command platform, and looked at this incredible scene. The 13th squad actually killed a level 4 creature. Could it be that Yang Mu? Chu Zio realized this immediately, and immediately said loudly to the dispatcher in the field, "Switch the central screen to the 13th squad." The screen flashed again, and then a shaking camera appeared, connecting to Richard's halberd mecha perspective. At this moment, the whole squad can be seen quickly crossing under the wall and rushing to the position of the 18th squad. How did they kill the hammer-headed beast? Did Yang Mu hide something from him? This is a question that Chu Zio is very concerned about now. If this killing happened in other squads, Chu Zio would only be simply excited and would not care too much. But this incident happened again in the 13th squad, which made Chu Zio feel that something was wrong. In the 13th squad, Yang Mu was there. That guy was the first person in the entire mecha regiment to use a mecha to kill a 4th level creature. Wait, why is the thing on the mecha different? Suddenly, the head of the infantry regiment standing next to him asked, pointing his finger at the mecha that was striding forward on the screen. Chu Zio also looked at it immediately and instantly found something different. Whose mecha is that? Why is there a different equipment on its left arm? Chu Zio saw the difference in the left hand of the dark green mecha. It was not the standard halberd cutting mecha arm of his mecha regiment. The strange drill was a completely unfamiliar piece of equipment that he had never seen before. Everyone in the field was a little surprised, and at this time Chen Wei, who was standing below to coordinate and command, turned around and said loudly, "Old Chu, I know what this is." Everyone instantly looked at Chen Wei, and Chen Wei continued, "That is a new type of equipment that Yang Mu got from somewhere. I have seen it and I know the shape of this thing very well." Yang Mu explained himself that this thing is a weapon that can be used to break through the heavy armor of creatures, and can cause multiple damage to hard-shelled creatures in close combat. "So you mean they used this thing to kill the hammer-headed beast just now?" Chu Zio asked immediately, and Chen Wei nodded. Seeing Chen Wei's response, Chu Zio frowned again, as if he was lost in thought. "Old Chu, I think the guy's suggestion of using this thing is a good idea, at least for the current situation. The current situation of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment is that the sharp knives and sharp bullets have not been able to tear through the defenses of the creatures. The soldiers can hardly do very effective damage to these level 4 creatures, so there is no possibility of further killing, which has created a very embarrassing situation. At the same time, the tenacious life and powerful attacks of these creatures will gradually put all the team members into a more dangerous situation." Chen Wei's answer seemed to support Yang Mu's views and practices. The other people in the field were confused and had no idea what the two were talking about. At this time, Chu Zhao answered, "Watch their next move closely to see if this thing is working. At the same time, order the 7th team to make a change in the battle, and let them attract the level 4 creature in front of them to the direction of the 18th team, but don't let that creature join the battle." "Old Chu, what are you doing?" Hearing that Chu Zhao wanted to track these creatures to the same location, Chen Wei's eyes widened and he asked hurriedly, but Chu Zhao didn't say anything, just staring at the picture on the projection screen. Chu Zhao wanted to verify whether this thing was really working. At this time, the 13th Mecha team where Yang Mu was had arrived at the battlefield. Kun Sang and Yang Mu, who were walking in the front, joined the battle at almost the fastest speed. In front of them was a huge 4-hoofed creature with 2 straight sharp horns, and not far away, a mecha fell to the ground, and the teammates next to it were rescuing it. Looking at the 2 huge holes on the front chest armor of the mecha, everyone understood what kind of attack this team member had just encountered. Yang Mu and Kun Sang's mechas attacked from both sides again, and at this time, the members of the 18th team also realized that this was a mecha coming to support. Before Yang Mu and Kun Sang launched their attack, they attracted the creature's attention, and Yang Mu and Kun Sang's attack would arrive faster. 2 high-speed rotating mechanical arms attacked the 2 sides of the sharp-horned rhino fiercely, and then the entire drill bit went straight in. The sharp drill bit drilled in fiercely. And at the same time the chainsaw was opened, twisting out pieces of flesh and blood. At the same time, the built-in muzzle fired again, and the red light flashed in the belly of the creature, just like the previous hammer-headed beast. The screaming roar sounded again, and this was the sharp-horned rhino also making a huge roar, jumping wildly, trying to break free from the attack from Yang Mu and Kun Sang. But everything was too late. The exploding bullets had already bloomed in its body, and its internal organs were shattered in an instant, and the rhino completely lost its combat power in the next moment and fell down. The 18th squad was left stunned. In the command room, everyone was also stunned at the situation. What happened in an instant was violent and bloody, but it showed how powerful this weapon that everyone had never seen before was. "What kind of weapon is this?" another officer asked immediately, but no one in the field could answer him. At the same time, Chu Zhao reacted immediately after being shocked, and immediately said loudly, "Let the 13th squad support the 7th squad, and let the 7th squad give up the attack position. Inform Yang Mu, I want to see the real power of this arm." The order was issued, and everyone was excited. Chapter 263, Quickly Kill the Fierce Bird. Check the equipment. Liu Wei is here to help the 18th team retreat. The others follow me to the location of the 7th team, Shen Lan spoke in the channel, and at the same time, a location was displayed in everyone's holographic helmet. Yang Mu and Kun Sang cooperate with this attack. Remember, this creature is a land-walking fierce bird, and it moves quickly. Yang Mu, you are the main attacker, you must be more careful, Shen Lan emphasized again in the channel, and everyone responded, and then immediately glanced at the status of their mechas, replaced the energy batteries, and then controlled the mechas to rush into the herd again, rushing to a location not far away. Yang Mu, who had just received this order, was also confused. He did not expect that the command center would issue such an order at this time, and actually let him and others replace the position of the 7th team, and he would also be the main attacker. And it also pointed out that he wanted to see the power of the Dragon Slayer arm in his hand. Yang Mu also slowly realized that the other party might have seen the power of the Dragon Slayer arm in his hand, and was preparing to verify the power of the Dragon Slayer arm again. After 2 battles, Yang Mu actually had a different understanding of the weapon he was operating. Apart from anything else, he had simply thought that such a thing was only used to destroy the hard exoskeleton of the Zerg, which was convenient for further killing, but he did not expect that the attack power and damage of this weapon under cooperation were so high. The 2 creatures fell directly under such a rude attack. This is a level 4 creature. Yang Mu was unexpected about this situation, but he was also very surprised. Such a battle situation shows that the equipment in front of him has such great power. For level 4 creatures, it will be a magic weapon to defeat the enemy, which is of great value. While Yang Mu was thinking about this, the entire team had already broken through the obstacles of the beast tide and came to the front of the 7th mecha team. At this time, in the entire venue, a strange bird with very strong legs and almost disappearing wings appeared in front of everyone. What's more peculiar is that this bird is covered with short feathers, and at the same time, in its thick and sharp beak, rows of sharp teeth can be seen. But these are not enough to make this strange bird full of lethality. What makes this bird full of deterrence is the long black claws on its feet. When Yang Mu and others arrived, they saw a fighting scene. This fierce bird was leaping up and attacking a halberd-cutting mecha. The slender and sharp black claws were raised high, and then suddenly pierced into the mecha. With the momentum of the body, it fiercely scratched the right side of the mecha, splashing dazzling sparks. After that, a deep mark was left on the mecha. At the same time, the internal structure of the mecha had been partially destroyed and completely exposed. It was obviously seriously injured. Just the long black claws on the legs can immediately catch the entire mecha group off guard. This is definitely the biggest threat. The mechas of Yang Mu and others arrived quickly, and the fierce bird also quickly discovered the situation. It screamed loudly, and other creatures around it immediately rushed up to block Yang Mu and others from rushing to help. Shen Lan and Richard immediately stood up, and the 2 of them poured out all the heavy firepower on their mechas to clear a place for Yang Mu. Yang Mu and Kun Sang also informed them, and the 2 quickly moved their positions. The mechas moved in the gaps and quickly arrived next to the fierce bird. The captain of the 7th team had already received the order from above to give up the attack position. Seeing the arrival of the mechas of the 13th team including Yang Mu, he immediately asked the mechas of the whole team to start entangled and delay the fierce bird, and helped the mechas of the 13th team to block other creatures on the periphery. When he just received the order to lead the fierce bird to the direction of the 18th team, the captain of the 7th team, who had been in a bigger battle, was very accepting. It was obvious that he could receive such an order, which would help him and alleviate his current predicament. But when he attracted the fierce bird there, the command center issued a new order again, and this time the order was to let him and others give up the main attack position on the fierce bird. I thought they were giving way to the first team to attack, but I didn't expect that the last thing I heard was the 13th team. A mecha team that was not stronger than me was going to take over the attack position. I carefully confirmed this order 3 times. Although I was very unwilling and full of doubts, I still gave up my position when I saw the mecha of the 13th team coming in front of me. Yang Mu and Kun Sang's mechas also quickly joined the battle and faced this huge and ferocious bird. At the same time, the captain of the 7th team also found something different. That is, the left and right arms of the two mechas in front of them did not seem to be equipped with mecha arms. The terminal was a drill-like thing. What exactly is this thing? Such questions suddenly came to my mind. The situation in the field changed at this time. I saw the two mechas of the 13th team in front of me began to move, preparing to attack this fire spurt from both sides. Yang Mu and Kun Sang used the trick just now again. The two mechas attacked from the left and right, and the drills in their hands were also spinning rapidly. But this time it was different. This creature was no longer a four-legged creature, but a two-legged flexible bird. This fire spurt saw the two mechas coming from both sides, but it didn't show any fear. It just yelled and rushed up. The two sides were about to come into contact in the next moment, and at this time Yang Mu saw that the fire spurt used a different action. It suddenly turned around and rushed towards Kun Sang. Kun Sang, Yang Mu also quickly reminded the other party, while also operating the mecha to make fine adjustments, and followed after it. The 7th team standing aside to assist in the attack was stunned for a moment, and the expression on their faces suddenly became excited. They hurriedly shouted, "Attention! Its target is not the scout mecha, the mecha behind is careful." The voice of the captain of the 7th team sounded in Yang Mu's holographic helmet, and at this time Yang Mu and Kun Sang saw a surprised scene. The fire spurt that was obviously going to attack Kun Sang suddenly leaped up at the moment when Kun Sang raised the drill. The whole bird body directly passed over Kun Sang's mecha, then landed flexibly, swung its legs quickly, and turned a sharp 90-degree turn on the ground. Then it attacked Yang Mu's mecha from the side. The action of this fire spurt just now was just a cover. Its real target was Yang Mu's mecha. Yang Mu also realized this. Under the cover of the fierce firepower of the 7th and 13th teams, the whole mecha jumped up, the engines behind it erupted alternately, and the whole mecha turned over. Yang Mu tried his best to adjust the mecha. But the fire spurt's attack at this moment had already arrived. It screamed loudly, then raised its feet, and the sharp claws on its feet were raised high, as if it was going to penetrate Yang Mu's mecha in the next moment. Everyone shouted loudly to Yang Mu to be careful, and Yang Mu's face was serious at this moment. He pushed his left hand forward with all his strength and swung his right hand. The huge bodies of the fierce bird and the halberd-cutting mecha collided fiercely, and Yang Mu's mecha actually flew out directly in such a collision. The mechas of Kun Sang and others moved forward quickly, and the next moment, before the people could see clearly what was going on, the sharp scream of the fierce bird came again, and this time it seemed to be accompanied by a scream of pain. Yang Mu's mecha gradually stabilized its body shape, and with the help of the lights of the mecha and the flares in the sky, everyone finally saw clearly what was going on. Yang Mu popped out the chain sword in his right hand at some point, and the wide chain sword blocked the sharp claws of the fierce bird in time, while at the same time the drill in his left hand stabbed forward, and the high-speed drilling drill wiped a blur on the opponent's abdomen. Yang Mu's attack was effective, but this was not the end. Yang Mu's engines in both hands exerted force to force the entire fierce bird back, and at the same time, his steps kept up, and the chain sword stabbed directly into the wound at an angle. All these actions were done in one go, and the fierce bird didn't even have time to react and resist, and Yang Mu's smooth and sharp moves also made everyone's eyes light up. The next moment, Yang Mu swung the chain sword in his hand and swung the fierce bird fiercely. The fierce bird hit the bottom fiercely, and the abdomen was already bleeding, but Yang Mu did not stop. He immediately stepped forward and stepped hard on the neck of the fierce bird, then raised his left hand high and stabbed it hard. The drill of the dragon-slaying arm drilled into the belly of the fierce bird again, and the next moment, the fierce bird met the same fate as the previous two level 4 creatures. The people of the 7th team were extremely surprised, but the people in the command room suddenly cheered, and Chu Zhao's face also had a smile. Yang Mu also breathed a sigh of relief, but at this moment, a long and sharp voice mixed with screams sounded from the mountains and forests in the north. The sound actually formed a wave of sound, rolling in, shaking everyone's eardrums. At the same time, all the attacking animals stopped their actions at the same time, howled a few times, and slowly retreated. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Conversation. The noises of various heavy equipment and human voices mixed together. A series of mechas stood in one place in the entire camp. A large number of maintenance personnel were rushing to their respective mechas. Yang Mu opened the hatch and got off the mecha. The maintenance personnel around him looked at Yang Mu and went to the mecha. "Old man, I'll leave my mecha to you," Yang Mu said to a middle-aged man who was directing the maintenance vehicle not far away while holding a holographic helmet. Old Meng was the captain of the mecha maintenance team of the 13th team. Yang Mu debugged and maintained the mecha in the hangar every day, and the two of them gradually became familiar with each other. "Okay, I'll do my job, don't worry." The middle-aged man heard Yang Mu's call, turned his head immediately, and promised loudly, and then continued to direct the work, while Yang Mu slightly opened his tight combat uniform, exhaled heavily, and slowly walked towards the camp. At this time, Kunseng and others came over and called Yang Mu directly. "Okay, my Captain Yang, you are so fierce." Kunseng rushed up directly, stretched out his hand and hooked on Yang Mu's shoulder, and said to Yang Mu with excitement. Liu Wei also came up and punched Yang Mu's chest hard, and his face was also unable to hide the excitement. Richard was better, just took out a cigarette from somewhere, lit it by himself, and then curled his lips slightly. Even Shen Lan, who was standing at the farthest distance, Yang Mu saw a hint of joy on the other's face. The battle of the 13th team was undoubtedly very outstanding. Killing 3 level 4 creatures in succession was something that was unimaginable before. Such a record will be extremely eye-catching. The 13th team will definitely be able to stand out with this battle. Among them, Yang Mu, who performed the best, brought a deep shock to everyone. Everyone also understood that the current situation was completely brought by Yang Mu. All the credit should be attributed to the dragon-slaying arm brought by Yang Mu. It was because of the appearance of this thing that everyone was able to kill the level 4 creature so easily in such a short time. Okay, go down and have a rest." Kunseng was still playing with Yang Mu. At this time, Shen Lan came forward and interrupted everyone's playfulness. She drove a few people back to the camp, but left Yang Mu behind. Seeing Shen Lan's face gradually becoming more serious, Yang Mu also knew that there was something she wanted to tell him. "The order just sent you to go to the headquarters," Shen Lan said lightly, but Yang Mu nodded in understanding. He just used the dragon-slaying arm to complete the battle so easily, and the headquarters could not help but talk to him, and the topic must be about the dragon-slaying arm. But this is better, the dragon-slaying arm can be valued, which is the scene Yang Mu has always wanted to see. Yang Mu immediately responded and was about to go to the headquarters, but Shen Lan pulled Yang Mu back at this time. "The captain of the 7th team just came to me and said that he wanted to take 1 or 2 dragon-slaying arms." Shen Lan's face looked a little strange when she said this, because she was very surprised. Yang Mu had persuaded several mecha teams to use this thing before, which should be known to everyone. Logically, it should be the best to find Yang Mu, and he could also ask more about the situation of the dragon-slaying arm. But now he came to her. Is it just because of his identity as the captain? When Yang Mu heard this, he immediately realized what was going on. The captain of the 7th team obviously saw that his weapon had a super strong effect, so he thought of equipping such equipment in their team as soon as possible. But because he was ridiculed for talking to him before, the other party must be too embarrassed to come to Yang Mu, so he went to Shen Lan in a roundabout way, hoping to get the dragon-slaying arm. But Yang Mu didn't care much about this thing. Since he needed it, he would give it to him. "Okay, I don't have any objection. Captain, didn't you say it? It's all for the next battle. These things are for everyone to use. I can't disagree." Hearing Yang Mu say this, Shen Lan also showed a satisfied expression on her face, and at the same time, she had a different understanding of this young deputy captain. Yang Mu no longer cared about all this. He just quickly walked through the camp and came to the headquarters. He explained his purpose. The guards took Yang Mu to a place next to the command room. Pushing the door open, Yang Mu saw 3 people standing inside. Chu Xiao, Chu Song, and another person who should be the captain of the first team, Zheng Yuang. Now they are all in the office. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment and immediately shouted to report. "Yang Mu, it's just right. I have something to ask you." Chu Xiao looked up and saw that it was Yang Mu who pushed the door. He immediately smiled and raised his hand to let Yang Mu in. At this time, Chu Song and Zheng Yang were also looking at Yang Mu who came in. "What is the name of the thing you used today?" Chu Xiao asked directly, but Yang Mu immediately understood what he meant. "It is a special combat mechanical arm," Yang Mu said, pausing. "In the Pioneer group, they call this thing the dragon-slaying arm. Dragon slaying arm. Chu Xiao nodded thoughtfully, then looked up in surprise and asked, "Are you saying this thing is for pioneers?" Yang Mu smiled and touched his nose, then said awkwardly, "This thing was originally designed for use by military special forces, but in the end it became more popular among the pioneer group. I found this thing in their hands." "Oh? How do you mean?" Chu Xiao seemed very interested and asked in detail about the origin of this thing. Yang Mu did not question it and explained immediately. This dragon slaying arm is a rough attack weapon, which is more focused on armor breaking and also has a wide range of destruction. When the pioneer team goes on a mission, they are mostly faced with a threat of some giant creatures, so this weapon is more practical in fighting against creatures. After a series of actual combat tests, this weapon has extraordinary armor breaking ability and can break the defense of many creatures, but it also has limitations, that is, it must find their weak and vulnerable positions. If it is a head-on confrontation, this weapon is probably still not going to work. Yang Mu shook his head and said, but he was very firm about this statement, because in these few short uses, Yang Mu also felt something different. The power of this dragon slaying arm is indeed very powerful, but when breaking the defense, it also requires the driver to find a good position, with superb driving skills, to find the right opportunity and position to attack. Otherwise, it is very likely that the fourth-level creature will seize the opportunity to counterattack. Perhaps this is why so many pioneer teams in Zinking 4-star have a large number of dragon-slaying arms, but so far there has not been an incident of killing a fourth-level creature. It seems that you are very knowledgeable about things, Chu Xiao said in surprise after listening to Yang Mu's analysis. At this time, Chu Song, who was standing next to him, stepped forward with a smile and said to Chu Xiao, "Captain, you don't know yet. This thing was designed by Yang Mu. You designed it?" Upon hearing this news, Chu Xiao's eyes widened immediately, and he stood up and looked at Yang Mu. Seeing this fact being said, Yang Mu also nodded with a wry smile. Chu Xiao suddenly had a completely different view of the military academy student in front of him, but he asked another question. How many of these things are there now? Can they be mass-produced in a short time? Seeing the great function of this thing, Chu Xiao also hoped that this equipment could be quickly equipped to various mecha units to help the troops better resist the next beast-tide attack. Except the 2 Dragon Slayers equipped by our team, there are 24 more. As for mass production, there is not enough time and materials. I collected these things from the Pioneer team. Now they are piled up in the camp. This is the only way I can think of. Huh? You have made preparations a long time ago? Chu Xiao was a little happy when he learned the number, but he immediately pondered and said to Yang Mu, "That's great, I allow you to participate in the next operation." Chapter 265 Situation and Planning. What is the next move? Hearing this sentence from Chu Xiao's mouth, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, somewhat confused about what it meant. He turned his head to look at Chu Song beside him, and the other party showed a very meaningful smile. Sure enough, it seemed that Chu Song was interfering. Chu Xiao sat down again at this time, and then slowly explained. You have seen the power of this beast tide. In just 1 hour, the constructed wall was broken in many places, and there were many casualties and equipment losses. At the same time, according to the situation detected a few days ago, the number of beasts gathered in that area has increased by 1/3 compared to the beginning, and the 4th-level creatures have increased significantly. The total number has now exceeded 50. Heavy words came out of Chu Xiao's mouth, and Yang Mu opened his mouth in surprise, a little shocked by the news. That's why I am very interested in the kind of weapons you made, and hope to equip each unit, Chu Xiao said with emotion, but his mood instantly fell again. But this is still not enough. Although the 4th-level creatures have been restrained, the tens of thousands of low-level beasts can also break through the entire city. If we want to fight hard, then there is only one possibility. We will lose our ground base here and return to space in a mess. All the efforts of these years will be burned. Chu Xiao calmly cut, and his expression became very serious. His eyes swept over Yang Mu and others. Yang Mu keenly noticed the other meaning in Chu Xiao's tone, and immediately asked, Captain, do you mean that we should make other moves? Chu Xiao nodded undeniably, pushed a panel on the table to Yang Mu, and then continued to speak. Humanity can gain a dominant position in the Milky Way by strategy. We have smart brains and various tricks. This is our magic weapon to win. Yang Mu took the panel, then opened the picture on it, flipped through it, and saw several topographic maps scanned by near-Earth satellites. At the same time, he saw a bright red spot on it, and looked up at Chu Xiao. You also saw that the bright spot is actually an unusual creature. And the roar today is likely to come from it. You mean, that's the leader, Yang Mu said with sudden realization, and Chu Xiao nodded. So we have to carry out a decapitation operation, kill it, and this crisis may have a turn. Chu Xiao told his plan step by step, but Yang Mu fell into deep thought. After a moment, he raised his head and said, "It's impossible to rely on only one team among so many beasts." This is not Yang Mu's random denial. As a battle-hardened officer, Yang Mu can clearly analyze the current situation. A leader surrounded by layers of beasts, relying on only a mecha team, is impossible to defeat it. Of course it's impossible, and we never intended to let you kill the beast directly. Chu Xiao immediately refuted Yang Mu's words, but it made Yang Mu even more confused. You just need to find the location of your beast and locate our space-based weapons. The rest will be handled by the metal tungsten rods in space, Chu Xiao said coldly with murderous intent, but Yang Mu heard something different from this terrifying plan. So this is not the current location of that thing? Yang Mu asked, holding up the thing in his hand. No, this was obtained from a scan 2 days ago, and after that, there was no trace of it. Chu Xiao shook his head. Otherwise, we would not be able to organize a mecha team to go deep. This is our last resort. After Chu Xiao finished speaking, the two people next to him also looked at Yang Mu, with a little questioning in their eyes, but Yang Mu's face was a little serious. Chu Xiao told him these things, not just for fun. Knowing these meant that he would join this operation. Chu Xiao was silent now, just listening to his answer. Excuse me, Captain, how many people are going? Your team and the first team. What about the equipment? It's up to you to decide. The base will give you the greatest guarantee. What about the battle plan? There will be a land-based aircraft to take you to the rear of the entire beast group, and then, Chu Xiao seemed to pause for a moment, and it seemed that he had not yet thought of a complete battle plan. Yang Mu glanced at everyone, roughly understood the current situation and the purpose of this meeting, and immediately spoke. I accept the order of the captain unconditionally, but I hope the captain can give me a power, Yang Mu said slowly, and the look on his face became more and more determined. What power? That is, the entire team must obey my orders when the communication is silent and in an emergency combat state. And at any time, the captain, you must give priority to my suggestions. What did you say? This is impossible. At this time, Zheng Yuang, who was standing aside, suddenly stood up, and seemed to disagree with Yang Mu's request, but Chu Song, who was standing aside, pulled him back in time. Chu Xiao stared at Yang Mu at this moment, and broke the silence after a moment. I agree. I'll give you this authority. What, Captain? Zheng Yuang was obviously very surprised by Chu Xiao's decision. He couldn't believe that the experienced captain actually handed over such an important operational command to a young boy. But Chu Xiao interrupted Zheng Yuang's persuasion and expressed his attitude. Yang Mu nodded after hearing this answer. His face was still very serious. As a soldier, he certainly had no right to refuse such a mission, but this operation was undoubtedly very dangerous, so Yang Mu needed to fight for better conditions for himself and others. This time, the command authority was Yang Mu's request. Chu Xiao also agreed to Yang Mu's request. Since this agreement was reached, Yang Mu immediately changed his identity quickly. I have some ideas about the battle plan. As he said this, Yang Mu fiddled with the display panel in his hand for a few times, and then the panel completely projected the terrain map inside. This is the last place that thing appeared. Our plan is to move from behind. However, there must be dense beasts guarding it. If we go in directly, we will be discovered soon, and we may have to fight hard afterwards. Yang Mu immediately stretched out his hand and gestured on the holographic image, and then pointed to a place. It was a river line. The entire river ran through this terrain, and there was a place very close to the red dot. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they all had ideas in their minds. In this terrain, the rivers are mostly deep. Although the water flow is relatively turbulent, the drop is not too large, and the mecha can still move forward. Moreover, this kind of river can cover up many smells, plus the mecha's camouflage system. This is almost a perfect plan. Although Zheng Yuang's face was still red, he stopped talking at this moment. And Chu Xiao also praised the plan of this military student. Chapter 266 Reminder and Delivery. Colonial City 1, Airport 1, Helipad 1. Captain Shen Lan, Vice Captain Yang Mu, I'm glad you can come to participate in this mission. Chu Song, dressed neatly, led the merged team members to stand on one side of the helipad, smiling and saluting the members of Team 13 who were walking towards him. Yang Mu and others also stepped forward, stood in front of them, and returned a military salute. Shen Lan stood in front, glanced at them, and said, "This is my duty." Chu Song seemed to be completely unconcerned about the other party's indifferent attitude, and still said with a smile, "I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation. It must be unpleasant, especially with you." Liu Wei, who was standing behind, spoke at this time, with a puffy face, as if he hated this guy very much. Kun Sang and others also had a look on their faces, revealing a hint of dissatisfaction, and they didn't want to go on a mission with each other. Hearing some sarcastic words, Chu Song didn't care at all, just gave an order behind, asking the team members to check their respective mechas. Shen Lan also led everyone to check their mechas, and in an instant, only Chu Song and Yang Mu were left in the entire venue. Yang Mu tightened the buckle of his combat uniform, and at this time Chu Song took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Yang Mu, but his tone suddenly became very serious. "Yang Mu, you know how important this mission is to me, right?" Chu Song asked. Obviously he had already regarded the completion of this mission as a springboard for his departure from the White Tiger Mecha Regiment, and he seemed to be a little worried, so he came to confirm with Yang Mu. Yang Mu naturally understood the other party's intention. In fact, when he was pulled into this combat plan last night, Yang Mu knew that Chu Song must have said something in the middle. But it was no longer important. The 13th Squadron took on this mission, and Yang Mu would be the temporary commander in wartime, commanding the entire squad's operations. Of course, he would consider the other party's conditions. "Of course I know, but I still think it is necessary to remind you," Yang Mu answered slowly, and at the same time raised his head and looked at the other party. "Although this mission will be of great benefit to you, I hope that at least before the mission is over, you will treat everything with a normal mentality." "What do you mean?" "I just hope that in the mission, there will not be any link that will fail because of your momentary excitement or something. Of course, this is just a piece of advice. I will give you many opportunities to perform. This is our agreement, but you must also ensure that you will maintain complete trust in me in the next moment," Yang Mu said word by word, expressing his meaning completely. Chu Song looked at Yang Mu, and the expression on his face seemed to struggle for a while, but finally nodded. Seeing the other party nod, Yang Mu stopped talking, turned sideways and walked past, and then suddenly asked curiously, "Where is Zheng Yuang? He went to confirm the combat plan and will come over later." "Oh." Seeing Yang Mu walking towards the rear door of the army aircraft on the side, Chu Song looked at Yang Mu's back and fell into deep thought. The Yang Mu in front of him always gave Chu Song an indescribable feeling. Sometimes he was like a big boy who could get along well with his teammates, but sometimes, his temperament would suddenly be completely different. Like a heavy mountain pressing in front of him. In front of him, he would always unconsciously become a follower. This passive state always made Chu Song feel a little uncomfortable. But thinking of the other party's strength and his own future, Chu Song suddenly sighed, scratched his hair, and temporarily put this matter behind him. He had confirmed this matter in the first place, and now that the other party knew and promised to help, it was understandable for others to listen to him. "Let's confirm the battle plan again. Unit 1 and Unit 2 will drop us in the Z34 area. Due to the small height difference, we need to use a hard landing method, and then quickly close the valves of the mechas and enter the main river. The fire mecha is huge, so we must pay attention to the depth. The camouflage net must be kept open at all times, and the communication connection must be kept silent as much as possible." In the humming army aircraft delivery cabin, Zheng Yuang sat in the mecha, confirming various matters before the delivery with the team members, and planning the possible situations and solutions. "Everyone should know that this mission is very important. We can only fight and cannot retreat," Zheng Yuang encouraged everyone, and then looked at Yang Mu. "Comrade Yang Mu, do you have anything to say? In this mission?" Zheng Yuang, as the executive officer of the entire mission, was responsible for most of the instructions except for the battle, and Yang Mu had previously won temporary command from the regiment commander. The two people's powers overlapped slightly, but after all, they were given by the regiment commander. Although Zheng Yuang was a little dissatisfied with this guy, he still chose to listen to his opinion. Yang Mu looked around and said, "I have only one request, that is, the overall planning should follow the orders of the headquarters, but in the event of a crisis, I will judge everything." Yang Mu's calm voice sounded in everyone's headphones, and everyone was stunned for a moment, but then they still answered yes. Seeing that all this was said, Zheng Yuang took over the topic again and said, "Remember, our mission must be successful this time. All mechas, start the final inspection before delivery." The voice sounded, and everyone began to check various things. At this time, the land aircraft had arrived at the designated location and was slowly landing. Although the plan this time was hasty, with sufficient guarantees, the mission was still going smoothly. At least now, the aircraft carrying these 11 mechas did not suffer any major blows. Of course, this may be related to the fact that the aircraft of the entire mecha regiment appeared above the gathering point of the beast group. This was a cover for Yang Mu and others to attract the attention of the beast group and confuse the audience. Yang Mu in the cockpit rechecked the status of the halberd-cutting mecha and the dragon-slaying arm, and then waited for the aircraft to hover. After a moment, the delivery hatch under the mecha opened, and Yang Mu saw the sparse forest below, which was whitish under the sunlight. It is now 12 o'clock noon, the time for the mission to begin. The reason for choosing this time is still after a series of discussions. The time of the next beast tide will definitely not be too far away, and it is most likely to be tomorrow night. Because night is the most active time for beasts, on the contrary, it is the most difficult time for humans. So the possibility of a beast tide at that time is very high. The reason why the team did not choose to set off at this time is that the beasts are aggressive and alert at this time, which is not conducive to the advancement of the entire team. Secondly, the dark environment is not a good combat environment for the team members, and they will lose the reaction of many senses, which will greatly increase the danger of the characters. Therefore, relatively speaking, if all the beasts come out, it is a completely useless advantage that there will be fewer beasts around the leader. Finally, the time was set at noon. The weather these days is very hot, and the sun in early summer is also strong. The place where the beasts stay is just an ordinary mountain, and the trees are not enough to block the scorching temperature. Animals will be less active in this hot environment, and their abilities will also decline. If the mecha team sneaks in at this time, they may be able to reach a deeper place. With an order, all the mechas immediately unfastened their buckles and dropped 11 mechas into the sky above the forest like dumplings. Chapter 267, Mist. The values of the mechas are normal, and the camouflage net is running normally. There is no abnormality in the monitoring equipment. The river terrain is relatively stable. Pay attention to the water flow. One piece of information after another came out of the helmet. The reorganized 1st and 13th teams gradually got used to each other and slowly moved forward in coordination. 11 mechas now appeared in a river that was not very wide. All the mechas were passing through the river, relying on the built-in engine to drive the mechas to move. At the same time, the upper body of the mechas exposed on the river surface was equipped with camouflage nets. If you don't pay special attention, there will be no way to see that there are mechas moving in the river. The 13th team where Yang Mu was walking in the back. Kun Sang and the scout of the first team had been released long ago, that is, the guy who once carried the saber-toothed lion cub. The scorching sun was shining overhead, and the temperature in summer seemed very hot. In addition to the sound of rushing water, there was only occasional noise around the river, which was the sound of small animals passing by. Perhaps it was because of the bombing of the beast herd gathering place by the Mecha Regiment Flight Squadron just now. Many beasts were attracted there, and Yang Mu and others were able to sneak in smoothly, but the situation there was not good at the moment. From a distance, several black smoke columns could be seen rising there, which were formed after several fighter planes crashed. For this action, the Mecha Regiment also paid a huge price. Yang Mu stared at the situation around him, occasionally glanced at his current position, recalled the red dot before, and then moved forward cautiously. There is a situation, stop moving forward. Suddenly, Zheng Yuang in front spoke, and everyone's mecha stopped instantly and stood quietly in the water. At this time, the picture obtained by the scout mecha in front had been fed back to everyone's screen. It was a narrow bend in the river, but there was a different situation there now. In that place, tall gray-green wolf-shaped creatures were crossing the water surface at a very fast speed. After each wolf jumped over the water surface, it rushed directly into the forest on the other side. But there were a lot of these wolf-like creatures, and each one was 2 or 3 meters tall and 4 or 5 meters long, and looked extremely ferocious. This is strange, the system can't find any biological information about this thing. At this time, a mecha soldier standing in front spoke up. Everyone was stunned when they heard all this. Yang Mu also reacted and found that there was indeed no information found in the system. He immediately thought of something. Is there something else about this thing? Someone asked, but no one discussed it, and Yang Mu didn't know how to answer it. Chu Song, who was standing in front, spoke up at this time. This is not something we need to pay attention to. Send this information to the headquarters, and we will continue to move forward after they pass. After Chu Song finished speaking, everyone responded, knowing that this was indeed not the point they should pay attention to. After waiting for a quarter of an hour, waiting for these wolf-like creatures to completely leave here, everyone started to move forward again, and this message was also sent back to the headquarters at this time. The team continued to move forward slowly, and soon they came to the river closest to the red dot that was scanned before. Everyone quietly replaced the energy batteries of their mechas, and then silently drew their weapons. At this time, Yang Mu had walked to the front of the entire team, and also took out his own weapons, and spoke to the people behind him. Creatures below level 4 can fight freely, but once a level 4 creature appears, you must obey my orders, and make good use of the dragon-slaying arms in your hands. In this operation, a total of 5 people were equipped with dragon-slaying arms to fight against level 4 creatures. Everyone responded, and they all understood the importance of the next action. Then, at a command, everyone controlled the mechas to remove the camouflage nets on the mechas, and suddenly 11 dark green mechas of the same color appeared in the entire river. Yang Mu took the lead and stepped onto the river bank. The dragon-slaying arm in his left hand had begun to warm up at this time. Others also came out of the river and gradually formed a formation. Then, at Yang Mu's command, everyone began to move forward. The entire forward formation was also quite compact. 3 mechas with dragon-slaying arms stood in the front, followed by 2 mechas with shields, 2 firepower mechas in the middle, and 2 mechas equipped with dragon-slaying arms and other mechas in the back. The team cautiously went to the forest in front of them. The tense time was very short. After less than 5 minutes, the entire team exchanged fire with some beasts. Some ape-like creatures discovered the actions of the entire mecha and launched an attack without any hesitation. The entire team was quite restrained and calmly took out their cold weapons to kill these things one by one. But after these things passed, everyone came to the location marked by the red dot unimpeded. But when they arrived there, they found that there was nothing here, only traces of a trampled and destroyed forest. Everyone immediately realized that the thing was no longer here, and before everyone tried to find a way to find the thing's trail, a deafening roar suddenly sounded around everyone, and everyone immediately turned around and looked in the southeast corner. The earth-shaking sound was exactly the same as the sound last night. The thing actually moved so far in such a short time, and it seemed that it was going to do something. This thought came to everyone's mind, and Yang Mu immediately thought of something. This might be an order to attack. This thing might be organizing a manpower attack now. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at noon when the sun was scorching, everyone was unconsciously tired. Immediately change direction and chase that thing. At the same time, issue an order to the headquarters, report the situation, and request a detailed scan of the area. Zheng Yuang was worthy of being the captain of the first team. He made a series of orders in the shortest time, and then the next moment, he looked at Yang Mu's mecha. Yang Mu, the next battle is up to you. Zheng Yuang said this, and everyone looked at Yang Mu, who also nodded. Follow the previous formation and continue to move forward, Yang Mu said, and at the same time stood at the front of the entire team. The others quickly manipulated the mechas and set up their positions. The entire team sped up and headed in the direction of the roar. At this time, in the colony city, the soldiers stationed on the wall saw a shocking scene after hearing the roar of Yuan. In the distant mountains and forests, countless animals emerged at this moment, running like wolves and pigs, and a rolling wave was coming towards them. At the same time, many of the large creatures were covered with smoke and dust, as if they were dragging something. It's a tree. Some large creatures are dragging trees forward. Suddenly, a soldier standing on the observation deck shouted loudly, and everyone saw clearly that the things that raised countless smoke and dust were actually large trees. Chapter 268, Surprise. The shadows of the trees were swaying, and a small beetle was trying to flap its wings, and it was swaying from one leaf to another with its body. Suddenly, there was a noise, and before the small beetle could land steadily, it suddenly felt an unprecedented strong wind sweeping past, and the leaves were blown wildly in the air, and the beetle was thrown out and fell heavily to the ground. Chu Song, you and 2 people will deal with the 4th level creature, and the others will keep the same direction and move quickly. Yang Mu controlled the mecha to quickly pass through the forest, and at the same time, He kept waving the chain sword in his right hand, sweeping away any creature that tried to block in front of him. In the surrounding area, other mechas were also moving quickly like Yang Mu, and all the mechas were striding forward in the predetermined direction, vowing to complete the task. As soon as Yang Mu finished speaking, 3 mechas separated from the right side of the team. The mecha led by Chu Song, who was holding the dragon slang arm, strode through the woods and attacked a hammer-headed beast that was roaring and rushing towards the team. With the 3 mechas blocking the way, the rest of the mechas were able to continue to move forward quickly. Since the roar that might have come from the leader just now, the entire team has been moving towards the southeast for 15 minutes. During this time, everyone encountered more and more creatures, and inevitably had many battles. Killing another hairless canine creature in front of him, just when Yang Mu was about to move forward again, the headset came with a warning of others behind him, and in the next second, a huge creature crashed in front of him. Yang Mu quickly manipulated the mecha to retreat without thinking, and at this time he also saw clearly what kind of creature was in front of him. It was a sturdy creature that was more than 10 meters tall. It looked like an ape, but the appearance of 4 arms made it look more shocking and lethal. The next moment, the creature suddenly roared, and then directly attacked Yang Mu's mecha, sweeping its 4 arms towards Yang Mu at the same time. Yang Mu could only choose to retreat immediately, but even so, the creature's super long arms still made its claws leave several deep scratches on the front of the mecha. This thing is definitely a level 4 creature, and it must be a strong level 4 creature. Yang Mu was surprised to control the mecha to retreat, and at this time the mecha behind him also immediately deployed his posture. The firepower mecha opened the weapon rack, and several missiles were whizzed out. The missiles hit the creature hard and exploded violently at the same time, and several flames suddenly lit up. The creature was also hit by the missiles and staggered, but immediately stabilized its body and roared angrily. "Prepare to fight," Yang Mu shouted loudly, and everyone was ready to fight at this moment. The formation changed immediately. The defensive mecha came to the front, and the other mechas took out their weapons. Following Yang Mu's order, all 9 mechas in the field started to move. Yang Mu's mecha rushed to the front first, and the firepower mecha behind started to attack first, suppressing the ape creature with firepower, creating opportunities for Yang Mu and others. The height of the halberd mecha was only 8 meters, and it still seemed a little small when facing such a creature. But the attack it launched was no less impressive. The fast-moving drill reached the opponent's abdomen in an instant, but the next moment, a surprising scene appeared. It seemed that because the appearance of this thing had thick hair, when the entire drill entered, it was not half useful. The entire drill slid past in an instant, and the opponent was almost unscathed. Yang Mu was naturally very surprised to see this weird scene again, but at this time other people had already come forward, and at the same time, the ape creature also fought back. It was seen swinging its huge fist, sweeping away all the trees that blocked the view around it, and at the same time, its 4 arms went around and hit several mechas hard. The mechas that were attacked were all hit hard and kept retreating backwards. "Don't fight it head-on, find the weak point." Yang Mu stabilized the mecha again and issued an order. Armor-piercing bullets. The firepower mecha quickly adjusted its position and fired 2 hot armor-piercing bullets. The armor-piercing bullets rotated and pierced into the opponent's body, but after a roar, the ape creature didn't even make a sound. Because such an attack didn't actually cause it any substantial damage in the end, this level 4 creature seemed to have an extraordinary defensive ability. Seeing these scenes, everyone took a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that they would encounter such a tough guy here. But at this moment, a howl suddenly sounded on the right side of the team, and at the same time, the news from Chu Song and others came from the helmet. They had killed the hammer-headed beast and were rushing over here. Yang Mu suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind and immediately spoke. "Don't fight this guy anymore. Leave 3 mechas here to hold it back, and the rest of you go around it and find the leader creature." Yang Mu quickly issued the order, and everyone immediately understood their mission. Since they couldn't kill this creature in a short time, why not use the least amount of troops to contain it, so that more people can be freed up to deal with the main creature? After hearing all this, the team members suddenly realized it, and began to withdraw from the battle in front of them in an orderly manner. Yang Mu also went up to carry out 2 feints to attract it, and at the same time ordered Chu Song and others to go around it and head towards the target. Liu Wei and the other 2 mechas of the first team gradually took over the battle in front of them. At this time, Yang Mu and others seized the opportunity, quickly escaped from one side, turned on the power of the mecha to the maximum, and frantically urged the mecha to go to the south of the forest. The ape-like creature seemed to have seen the actions of Yang Mu and others, and roared as it turned to stop them. However, the three mechas entangled the other party tightly at this time, and launched attacks on the other party's weak parts many times. Although the creature was strong, its intelligence was obviously not enough. Under the active and deliberate attacks of the three mechas, the creature was led to the other end of the forest by the three mechas. Yang Mu and others also continued to operate the mechas to charge forward. This time, there were no more level 4 Shenwu on the road. Yang Mu and others soon passed through this forest and came to the top of a mountain. At this time, the front suddenly opened up and an open valley appeared in front of them. There was a large open space in it. Yang Mu also saw the scene inside. In this area, there were densely packed creatures, and these creatures were tightly surrounding a creature in the middle. Yang Mu looked over, and Chu Song next to him suddenly exclaimed, "How could it be this guy?" Hearing Chu Song's surprised tone, Yang Mu immediately looked over and found that the creature surrounded in the middle was a lion. Looking closely, Yang Mu suddenly realized that the creature seemed to be another saber-toothed lion that escaped in the exercise not long ago. But now it appeared here, and such a saber-toothed lion was the culprit that gathered so many creatures to form a beast tide? Yang Mu's heart was full of surprise, and Shen Lan, who was standing next to him, suddenly raised an objection. "No, why does it seem that there is something at the back of the neck of that lion?" As soon as the question came out, Yang Mu also looked over, and the next moment the holographic helmet showed the clear shape of that thing. It was a brown-black, disc-sized creature with a smooth and shiny shell on the outside and several long limbs. At this moment, it seemed to be deeply embedded in the neck of the creature. Chapter 269 Shocking Discovery. The creature looked horrible and strange, but Yang Mu, who saw its appearance clearly, shuddered. Although this thing was only the size of a wash basin, Yang Mu had the most acute perception of it. Knowing what it was, Yang Mu's face turned pale in an instant. This thing was a kind of insect that he had seen before, a kind of Zerg. This was a kind of insect that only appeared in various ecological planets, and its purpose and function were different from other insects. It was a parasite, and the function of this insect was to control other organisms and manipulate the host to attack. At that time, he had only seen this kind of insect by chance, because when the Zerg invaded in large numbers, this kind of insect had become completely unimportant. He had only read the information about this thing for a comprehensive understanding. But he did not expect that today, he would actually see this kind of insect here, which was an unprecedented situation. Could it be that the Zerg had already begun to invade the Milky Way at this time? Such an idea suddenly popped up in Yang Mu's mind, and he was immediately horrified. It's the saber-toothed lion in the middle. Everyone, pay attention. The thing on the back of the lion's neck must be killed. It has priority over the lion, Yang Mu ordered loudly, and all the mechas were dispatched to the next moment. The wall at 821 collapsed, and creatures have invaded the edge of the city. The fourth team requests mecha support. The heavy firepower position was attacked and the equipment was damaged. In the command room of Colonial City 1, urgent messages were reported to Chu Zio. Chu Zio, who was standing on the command platform, had a frown on his face. Let the flight squadron go out again, shrink the front line positions, retreat the mechas, and attack from the bunkers. Chu Zio issued the order, but he was in a state of confusion. Half an hour ago, the beasts in the northern forest actually launched an attack at this time when the sun was the hottest, and the scale of this attack seemed to be even larger. Although it was daytime, this time those things seemed to have learned something, and actually dragged a large number of trees from the forest. These trees immediately stirred up bursts of dust in the exposed mountains, covering the sky and blocking the sun, hindering the attack. These trees later became their springboards to climb the wall. Although several waves of incendiary bombs were fired, it seemed that nothing had any good effect. These creatures were unprecedentedly fearless and fiercely attacked the position. The wall was breached everywhere. Many creatures had begun to strike in depth. Now they had fallen into the tactic of adding fuel to the fire. Everywhere was asking for soldiers, but all kinds of equipment and personnel had suffered great losses. Chu Zio wanted to reinforce but had no soldiers to send. Organize the pioneer team in the city to join the battle. Irrelevant people began to retreat. The infantry corps contracted the front line, and all heavy firepower fired rapidly for 3 minutes. We may have to give up this city. Chu Zio said this with some disappointment, and Gray, who was standing not far away, heard this and angrily refuted it, demanding that Chu Zhao must defend the city. Chu Zhao completely ignored the other party's barking, but only coordinated with various places and asked about the situation of Yang Mu's team. Report to the regiment commander, the first team has sent a picture. At this time, a staff member said to Chu Zhao, and then a picture appeared on the personal display in front of Chu Zhao. Chu Zhao took a look, and his face suddenly changed, and his expression instantly became a little terrified. At this time, Chen Wei, who was standing below, found that Chu Zhao was in a somewhat abnormal state, and immediately ordered the communication staff to adjust the picture to the big screen. The huge picture was displayed on the screen, and everyone who saw it all exclaimed. Chen Wei was also very surprised when he saw that the leader was actually a saber-toothed lion, but he also quickly discovered the situation in this photo taken from the back. Zoom in the situation at the back of the saber-toothed lion's neck, Chen Wei immediately ordered, and the picture was quickly enlarged, showing the shape of the creature. A hideous little bug attached to the back of the saber-toothed lion's neck, and it seemed to be controlling the saber-toothed lion. Search the database immediately to find out what this thing is, Chen Wei said loudly and seriously. There is no information about this thing in the database. Expand the scope and search for all biological information within the Xinsong star field. Report to the deputy commander. There is still no information about this creature in the known beetle atlas. After a moment, the staff officer said loudly, with a look of horror on his face. Chen Wei's face also changed after hearing this. In the first stage of the discovery of Zinking 4 stars, a large-scale collection of biological information was carried out. Because the creatures on this planet are more fierce and strange, such collection work has been ongoing, and all aggressive creatures have been screened first. But now, in this picture, this saber-toothed lion is obviously surrounded by many beasts, and such a large beetle behind it cannot appear casually. This thing must be related to all this. Chen Wei looked at Chu Zhao eagerly, hoping that Chu Zhao could make the next order. But at this time, Chen Wei saw a strange expression on Chu Zhao's face standing on the command platform, with shock, but also seemed to be with fear. Chen Wei tried to call Chu Zhao twice, and he reacted. Send an order to the first team, and tell them to kill this black creature at all costs, Chu Zhao said seriously, but Chen Wei looked straight at Chu Zhao. He knew this old friend very well. He couldn't hide his worries on his face. Moreover, he hadn't asked him how to deal with this thing, but he used such a firm tone to ask to kill this creature immediately, and at all costs. Old Chu must know something? Thinking of this, Chen Wei felt that he needed to know what this thing was now. Old Chu, do you know what this thing is? Chen Wei's words rang in the command room. Chu Zhao, who was turning around, was stunned for a moment, but lowered his head in silence. Seeing Chu Zhao's increasingly strange state, Chen Wei knew that there must be something strange in it. He immediately walked up to the control console, stood in front of him, and said sternly, "Old Chu, what are you hiding from us?" Chen Wei shouted, pulling Chu Zhao, who had a heavy face, back. For the first time, this middle-aged officer in his early 40s showed a lost and decadent expression. "It's that thing. It's already here," Chu Zhao said in disbelief. "It's that black beetle. It's the one that killed our other 4 mechas in the jungle. We couldn't even bring back the bodies. That thing came out of the space wormhole." Chu Zhao suddenly raised his head fiercely, with an extremely ferocious expression on his face. He stared at Chen Wei and pointed at the picture on the big screen. "That thing is the devil. It's the devil on this planet." Chapter 270 Chu Zhao's Decision. Chu Zhao almost shouted this sentence, and at this time, everyone in the command room was attracted by Chu Zhao's roar. Chen Wei's expression froze when he heard all this, and he couldn't believe what Chu Zhao said. Not long ago, when Chu Zhao went on a mission, Chen Wei always thought that it was just because Chu Zhao and others encountered some stronger creatures in the primeval forest of the planet, which led to the failure of the plan. But he never thought that this matter would be such a situation. The culprit of all this turned out to be a black beetle, a bug that looked like it could be killed with one shot, which actually shocked and frightened Chu Zhao. What's more terrifying is that this thing actually has such terrifying power that it can control so many creatures to attack the colony city. What kind of creature is this? What is this thing? Chen Wei looked back at Chu Zhao in confusion, but Chu Zhao leaned on the railing in a daze, suddenly took out a cigarette from his arms, lit it silently, and his eyes flickered under the shadow of the brim of his hat. The various staff officers in the regiment were also very surprised when they saw their leader take out a cigarette, because as far as they knew, Their leader never smoked. The superior ordered us to check the abnormal spatial fluctuations. When I arrived with the first team, I actually only saw black holes suspended in the forest. Chuzio suddenly spoke and began to talk about it, as if he was recalling the whole story. It was only a few hours after we arrived that the wormhole gradually disappeared, and then the surrounding spatial fluctuations became normal. We carefully collected this information and prepared to go back and report, but on the way back, something went wrong. Chuzio exhaled a puff of smoke fiercely and said a little awkwardly. We hadn't walked very far when one of the mechas in the team suddenly had a problem. The team member seemed to be hallucinating, shouting that someone was going to kill him, and then he actually attacked another mecha from behind with a chain sword. We finally subdued that mecha, but the team member of the mecha he attacked died. My guard went forward and opened the cockpit of the crazy team member, only to find that the pilot had vomited his eyes and died suddenly. Chuzio paused here. But this is not over yet. When we were preparing to bring back the bodies of the two team members, my guard sitting in the mecha suddenly lost control and attacked me. We controlled him, but found that he was also dead, and his expression was exactly the same as the crazy team member before. I ordered the rest of the people to leave there quickly, but on the way, another mecha driver went crazy. I killed him personally, but I didn't open his cockpit. I just checked his cockpit view directly through the management authority. That person's death was the same, but the difference was that at that moment, I saw a different situation in the cockpit. There was a black bug inside. After that, I checked the data uploaded to the cloud by other victims again, and I found this bug in their cockpits, Chuzio said with a look of disappointment, and Chen Wei was already extremely shocked at this time, surprised that this was completely different from the fact that Chuzio explained to him before. Suddenly Chuzio stood up, put out the cigarette, and looked at Chen Wei. Old Chen, you are ready to lead everyone to retreat. Where are you going? Chen Wei was stunned for a moment when he heard Chuzio's words, and asked hurriedly. Chuzio's expression became cold again, and he glanced at Chen Wei and said slowly, I am going to kill this bug with my own hands. It killed my 4 good soldiers. No, you are the commander, you can't leave here now. Chen Wei wanted to stop Chuzio, but Chuzio said sternly. Old Chen, I am very glad that I have made other preparations. This time, even if I bet on the first squad, I will kill this thing. After saying this, Chuzio adjusted his head and strode out of the command room, leaving a group of stunned officers. Richard, stop this guy from me, Yang Mu shouted loudly, and at this time Yang Mu had already manipulated the mecha to tear apart a canine creature that pounced on him, and at the same time kicked away a scale-like animal and rushed forward. Hearing this, Richard, who was standing next to Yang Mu, immediately stepped forward and hid a 4-legged creature in front of him hard, clearing the way for Yang Mu. The rifle in his hand did not stop firing, and a volley of bullets was fired in an instant, but Yang Mu was surprised to find that the brain worm behind the saber-toothed lion was not damaged at all, and almost perfectly deflected every bullet. The surrounding mechas all rushed towards the saber-toothed lion at this time. Everyone knew that this thing was the leader, but the creatures that kept roaring and surging around blocked everyone's steps again and again. For some reason, these creatures were fearless in the face of such a situation and held everyone tightly. No matter how Yang Mu and others broke through, these creatures seemed to have lost the instinct to avoid risks belonging to creatures, but just fiercely showed their fangs and claws, and frantically blocked the steps of the mecha team. Yang Mu had to fall into a hard battle. The entire mecha was already full of corpses of creatures under its feet, and it was still a long distance away from the saber-toothed lion. At this moment, the saber-toothed lion actually moved. Seeing the lion slowly turning around, Yang Mu suddenly saw a surprised scene. The front of the saber-toothed lion showed that the lion's face was distorted, and what impressed Yang Mu the most was the lion's eyes. It was a pair of white eyes, which had lost all its agility and seemed to make the whole lion lose its dignity. At this moment, the lion exuded a strong aura of death, which made Yang Mu shudder. It must be the bug that did it. It was the culprit of all this. Yang Mu was more determined than his heart, but there were creatures blocking him in front of him, and Yang Mu had no way to go up and kill it. At this time, Chu Song's words suddenly came from the channel. Yang Mu, let's go together. As soon as the voice fell, Yang Mu saw a place not far to his right that was besieged by creatures suddenly burst into sparks, and then countless creatures were gradually opened, and a mecha rushed out directly from it. Chu Song actually chose to detonate the high-explosive bomb directly outside the mecha. This kind of killing brought a great burden to the armor of the mecha, but the effect was significant. The creature in front of him was torn apart instantly. As the captain of the original second team, Chu Song was naturally a smart mecha warrior. He also understood the current situation and found a way to crack it in an instant, although this method seemed a bit impulsive. Seeing this, Yang Mu immediately ejected 2 high explosive bombs from his weapon rack and chose the direction to be right in front of the strong bear armor. The orange warhead exploded instantly, and the holographic helmet screen naturally turned black, helping Yang Mu to weaken the strong explosion light. At this time, Yang Mu was also pushed back 2 steps by the impact. But the next moment, the front was suddenly empty. This method was very effective. Getting rid of the entanglement of the creature, Yang Mu no longer hesitated. He informed Chu Song, and the 2 mechas rushed towards the saber-toothed lion from 2 directions at the same time. The saber-toothed lion seemed to have seen this situation as well. It suddenly crouched down, bared its fangs and looked at Yang Mu and Chu Song's mechas, and suddenly roared loudly. Yang Mu had never heard such a loud sound before. The sound seemed to penetrate his heart, and he felt that his whole body would be reduced to ashes in the next moment. Yang Mu and Chu Song's mechas also stagnated. In the next moment, a loud roar came from behind everyone, as if responding to the saber-toothed lion's roar, and then the sound of branches breaking came from the hillside behind everyone. Yang Mu, who was trying to endure the dizziness and move forward, suddenly felt a shadow appear above his head. The next moment, a tall figure blocked Yang Mu and the saber-toothed lion. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, Fierce Battle and Backhand. The huge figure landed beside Yang Mu, but Yang Mu immediately discovered what it was. This thing was the ape that the team members had led away before, but it suddenly appeared here at this moment. This thing should have been called by the bug, and he should be the biggest reliance of the bug. Yang Mu quickly controlled the mecha to retreat, and the ape creature turned around at this time, roared and launched an attack on Yang Mu's mecha. Yang Mu raised the weapon in his hand and blocked the opponent's 2 arms that swept over from the left. Just as he was about to counterattack, the opponent's right hand had already swept over at this time. Yang Mu's mecha was unable to respond and was immediately swept away. Chu Song wanted to seize this opportunity to break through from the other side, but before his mecha took a few steps, he was discovered by the ape creature, and then swept away in the next second. At the same time, 2 mechas jumped out of the forest on the hillside. They were the 3 mechas that had left her track before, but for some reason, only 2 came back now. Yang Mu stood up again, controlling the mecha. At this time, the firepower mecha had already opened fire fiercely. One after another, the shells hit the herd, and the creatures were instantly blown apart. Everyone took a breather and quickly locked their targets on the saber-toothed lion. The next moment, 2 mechas rushed over, and the rifles in their hands kept firing. At the same time, on the other side, 3 other mechas with dragon-slaying arms also rushed up. Many mechas surrounded them, and the insect seemed to feel the danger. Suddenly, it roared again while controlling the saber-toothed lion, startling countless birds in the forest. The creatures that were killed and injured stood up again at this time, and rushed towards the mechas desperately again. Yang Mu even saw those creatures whose limbs had been blown off were lying on the ground and roaring, wanting to get up and join the battle. Such a thrilling scene shocked everyone. It was difficult for Yang Mu to know what kind of bewitching these creatures were under, so that they wanted to protect the insects so madly. At the same time, in the southern colonial city, the battle situation there also changed slightly. The troops who were already retreating in an orderly manner found that after the roar, some powerful creatures in the team began to retreat. At the same time, aerial photos showed that some of the creatures in the back had begun to retreat quickly, but most of them were still trying their best to occupy the human territory. This strange phenomenon was also quickly noticed by the people in the command center. Chen Wei immediately issued an order for all troops to fire all their firepower. Success or failure depended on this one move. In another part of the colonial city, Chu Zhao was leading the guard team to board the land aircraft. All the mechas were equipped with firepower. Their goal was to reinforce Yang Mu's troops. Snap! Richard's mecha was severely whipped aside by the ape creature. The arm of the mecha had already been obviously twisted, but Richard quickly stood up and rejoined the battle. The surrounding mechas now understood that the saber-toothed lion's roar just now was calling for reinforcements. All the mechas were attacking quickly, thinking of ending the battle immediately. But the ape creature blocked in front of them and became an insurmountable obstacle for everyone. Yang Mu didn't know how many times he had attacked the defense of the ape creature in front of him. The bug was well protected behind it, and no matter how Yang Mu attacked, he could not make an effective attack. The situation at the scene gradually became a little anxious. Yang Mu's sight even had various failures due to fatigue of the mecha parts. Yang Mu was extremely anxious, but at this time, there was a sudden movement in the forest in front of him. Yang Mu quickly found something different on the radar screen. It was a group of fast-moving objects, obviously beasts. "Everyone, retreat, the enemy's reinforcements are coming," Yang Mu shouted loudly, and everyone who got the news also quickly retreated. At this time, Yang Mu suddenly saw something different on the thermal imaging screen. On the screen, the place where the bug controlled the saber-toothed lion showed an extremely high temperature on the screen. The bright red color was particularly dazzling among all the creatures. And not only was the temperature around the saber-toothed lion high, Yang Mu even saw that there were strands of red lines floating in the air, and the color was also very bright red. That's gas, and judging from the source, it's coming from the saber-toothed lion. An idea suddenly occurred to Yang Mu, and he widened his eyes and quickly shouted loudly in the channel. "Everyone, open the air purification to the maximum. Put on your gas masks." When Yang Mu said this, the team members who were gradually retreating to prepare for a new round of attacks were stunned for a moment, but they did it without hesitation. Yang Mu quickly turned the air purification function of the mecha to the maximum, and also put on the gas mask built into the holographic helmet. I hope this is just my imagination. The red airflows just seen in the thermal imaging made Yang Mu think of a possibility. The reason why this bug can control so many creatures is because it releases something in the air. Are these continuously released things the root of its control of everything? Thinking of this, Yang Mu did not intend to hesitate too much and was determined to resolve the battle immediately. This unknown gas, the longer everyone stays here, the more dangerous it may be, and we must leave here as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Yang Mu pushed hard with both hands again, and the drill of the dragon-slaying arm turned more vigorously. At this time, a large group of creatures suddenly broke out of the jungle. Those creatures were the wolf-like creatures that Yang Mu had seen when crossing the river before. After these creatures rushed out of the forest in the south, they did not slow down at all, but directly attacked the mecha team where Yang Mu was. The team members did not expect the attack to come so quickly and fiercely. The whole team fought back, but Yang Mu had already seen the huge wolf-like creature that rushed over with the mecha fell down, and his life or death was unknown. But suddenly, a roar sounded in the channel, and then Yang Mu suddenly saw a mecha on his left suddenly rushed forward, fiercely tearing the wolf pack in front of it, and then hugged the ape creature with a dive. "Zheng Yuang! What are you doing?" Chu Song shouted loudly in the channel, and Yang Mu realized that this person was Zheng Yuang. "Hurry up, there's a thermobaric bomb in my mecha." Suddenly, Zheng Yuang's crazy voice came from the channel, and everyone who learned about this immediately gasped. "This is in the battle plan, you leave immediately." Immediately. Ahem, Zheng Yuang was still talking loudly, but at this time the ape creature had already started to hit the mecha that was hugging him with his fists, and immediately interrupted Zheng Yuang's words. Yang Mu, who learned all this, woke up instantly, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Chu Zio was worthy of being the head of the group. He never bet everything on Yang Mu and the rail gun. He made another preparation, letting Zheng Yuang carry deadly weapons, and when necessary, drag the entire team and the leader creature to be buried with him. Such a plan is not without cruelty, but it can provide double insurance for this mission. Go. There's no time. That thing is remote controlled and has just been activated by the headquarters. Go. Zheng Yuang shouted loudly in the channel. Chu Song and others who were originally moving forward stopped and grabbed the old member of the first team and quickly retreated. Chapter 272, Abandoning the Rook to Save the King. Go. Zheng Yuang shouted loudly in the channel, and was interrupted by the vibration sound from behind again, but his eyes were red, staring at the saber-toothed lion protected by the ape creature in the corner of the screen. Before, Zheng Yuang was responsible for attracting this ape creature away, but he didn't expect that this creature was very powerful, and the three mechas couldn't suppress it at all. Afterwards, a roar suddenly came from the forest not far away, and the ape creature in front of him immediately got angry, knocked a mecha to the ground, stepped on it hard, and then ignored the fierce attacks of Zheng Yang and others, and went directly to the south. Seeing all this, Zheng Yang naturally followed immediately. But when Zheng Yang came to this valley, he found that the ape creature was protecting a saber-toothed lion, and at this time the teammates around him also told him what was going on. The saber-toothed lion was the leader, and Zheng Yang, who knew all this, naturally joined the battle quickly. But after several battles, Zheng Yang accidentally found a familiar thing on the back of the saber-toothed lion's neck. A bug the size of a wash basin. That was the culprit that the leader had mentioned and killed his team members. That black bug. Zheng Yang, who suddenly figured everything out, had red eyes in an instant. At this time, he only had the thought of revenge for his teammates in his mind. He kept manipulating the mecha to launch attacks, but was blocked by the tall ape creature. Seeing that the hope of being able to attack was getting smaller and smaller, bad news came at this time. The creature summoned reinforcements, which undoubtedly made it a luxury for him to kill it and avenge his team members. But at this moment, Zheng Yang remembered what the leader had told him before he set off. Although he went to get a detailed combat report, the leader told him something else during this time. He said that he had an extra super thermobaric bomb loaded in his mecha. If he encountered the leader creature, he could detonate this thing in an emergency. Zheng Yang immediately thought of this thing at this moment, but when he called it up, he found that there was no authority to trigger such a thermobaric bomb in his fire control system. This missile was actually directly controlled by the command center, but at this moment, Zheng Yang suddenly thought of the surrounding mecha team members. This thermobaric bomb can completely cover all spaces within a kilometer in an instant. The extremely high temperature and the instantly emptied oxygen may cause great danger to the team members. Thinking of this, Zheng Yang was about to ask the team members to prepare to retreat, but at this time the thermobaric bomb was actually activated, and the time was set to explode after 100 seconds. Thinking of this, Zheng Yang immediately stood up with his eyes wide open, and shouted to explain the situation to the surrounding team members. At the same time, he also drove the mecha towards the direction of the saber-toothed lion, but there was no doubt that he was stopped by the ape creature. Even if he struggled desperately, he could not break free. Looking at the saber-toothed lion and the black beetle behind it so close, Zheng Yang's teeth were about to break. But this distance is enough. At such a close distance, that thing still had no way to escape the attack. It was blocked by the guy in front of it. Wanting this, Zheng Yang directly controlled the mecha to hug the body of the ape in front of him tightly, hoping that the countdown would pass quickly and detonate the thermobaric bomb as soon as possible. At the same time, Yang Mu, who was already running fast up the hillside, kept paying attention to the situation under the valley. The ape creature was holding Zheng Yang's mecha tightly, and Zheng Yang's mecha was also holding the opponent's mecha tightly at this time. I don't know what's going on. But when Yang Mu knew that the mecha was loaded with a thermobaric bomb on the back, and it had been activated, the situation in front of him became more serious. This is not something to joke about. Once such a thing explodes, if your mecha fails to escape the explosion range in time, then with the explosive power of the thing, your mecha will be melted in an instant even if the armor is thick. Sitting in the cockpit, I will die. Thinking of this, Yang Mu once again urged everyone to control the mecha to speed up the escape. But at this moment, the situation in the valley changed. The saber-toothed lion that was being controlled roared again, and the ape creature followed suit. Then in the next moment, Yang Mu was surprised to see that the ape creature tightly grasped Zheng Yang's mecha, and then began to move towards the other side. The creature, which was more than 10 meters tall, moved its body quickly, and in a blink of an eye, it was already several hundred meters away from the saber-toothed lion. The insect actually knew that Zheng Yang's mecha was in danger. It was commanding the ape creature to take Zheng Yang's mecha away. Yang Mu, who realized this in an instant, was furious. He didn't expect the situation below to change so quickly. That thing was willing to let this powerful creature used to protect itself go to be buried with Zheng Yang's mecha. Stop. Go back. Yang Mu used the momentum of the engine to stop the mecha directly, twisted the fuselage, and then took a big step and controlled the mecha to rush towards the saber-toothed lion again. Upon hearing this, the team members who were leaving also stopped their mechas. Everyone realized that Zheng Yang's plan had failed in an instant, and they turned their mechas around and rushed back into the valley. Zheng Yang must not be sacrificed in vain. This was the first thing everyone thought of, and they also controlled the mechas to relaunch the attack. The sudden return of Yang Mu and others obviously disrupted the deployment of the insect. The surrounding wolves were pulled away, and the firepower mechas exerted their strength, and for a time they were blown up by ghosts and wolves. Yang Mu rushed to the front, his eyes full of anger, full of resentment for the thing in front of him. This thing was so vicious that it abandoned the cart to save the general, and Zheng Yang lost his life in vain. Now Zheng Yang could not be contacted, and it seemed that he was in danger. Then let this thing in front of him pay the price it deserves. Yang Mu thought with anger, and at the same time fired all the firepower of the mecha, vowing to kill this thing in this wave of attacks. Just as Yang Mu suddenly jumped up from the hillside, waving his sword to attack the guy, a white light suddenly appeared in the distance on the right, and then the next moment, the fire turned orange, and then immediately turned white. A rumbling sound was heard in the surroundings. The super thermobaric bomb had exploded. This thought suddenly rang in Yang Mu's mind, but before he could come back to his senses and launch an attack, a shock wave swept across the entire forest, bringing up a strong wind, sweeping up dust and dead leaves, and sweeping towards Yang Mu's leaping mecha, and the entire metro was instantly overturned. The surroundings were suddenly submerged in the high dust, and it seemed that the whole world was instantly confusing. Chapter 273 Shenlan's Obsession. Yang Mu shook his head and woke up from the shocking shock. At this time, the surroundings were gray and the dust raised by the thermobaric bomb did not fall, causing the mecha to lose its basic vision instantly. Yang Mu quickly manipulated the mecha to stand up again and turned on the thermal imaging screen on the mecha, but the front suddenly turned red. The heat emitted by that thing was particularly huge. He was close to it, but he could not see anything clearly. But Yang Mu also immediately realized that he might be very close to the creature. The creature might be right next to him. Yang Mu instantly took a defensive stance. At the same time, the dragon-slaying arm and chain sword in his hand began to work, carefully guarding against the surrounding situation. "Everyone be careful, that thing may be next to us," Yang Mu said to the people around him at the same time. Everyone could find each other's position from the radar at this time, but the surrounding situation could not be seen clearly with the naked eye. Everyone also raised their cold weapons and carefully guarded the surroundings. At this time, a snorting sound was heard, and a mecha not far from Yang Mu suddenly moved, followed by the driver's exclamation. Everyone hurried to ask, but the driver immediately said that it was a wolf creature that attacked him. After a while, the noise gradually became smaller. The team member successfully killed the wolf creature, but just when everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief, a girl next to Yang Mu suddenly screamed. "Zio Wei!" Shen Lan recognized it at the first time and shouted loudly in the channel, but Liu Wei kept screaming. "It's that thing, it's the saber-toothed lion!" Liu Wei finally said the creature that made everyone nervous, and everyone immediately moved, and everyone ran towards Liu Wei's position on the radar in an instant. But at this time, the surrounding area suddenly sounded one after another wolf howling, and those wolf creatures did not stop, but suddenly stood up and attacked under such circumstances. The mecha around Yang Mu was instantly knocked down, and at the same time Yang Mu was also stared at by a wolf creature. This wolf-like creature seemed to be very smart. It knew how to take advantage of the weak points of the mecha. It actually took advantage of the dust around it to attack from behind and jump directly onto the back of Yang Mu's mecha. Although it was not a blind spot, it was difficult for Yang Mu to kill it. Yang Mu immediately bounced up the mecha and fell backwards suddenly, but the creature immediately seized this opportunity, twisted its body forward, opened its big mouth and bit Yang Mu's mecha head fiercely. In this situation, Yang Mu stumbled and hit several trees before he barely stopped. He immediately raised the arm of the mecha and stabbed his head fiercely with a chain sword. The chain sword pierced into something, and at the same time a scream came. Yang Mu swung the chain sword hard again, and the wolf-like creature was picked apart. Yang Mu took advantage of the close-up vision and quickly raised the dragon-slaying arm in his hand and hit the thing fiercely in the abdomen. After a moment, the creature also died. Yang Mu stood up again to check the surrounding situation. At this time, he could no longer hear Liu Wei's voice in the channel. At the same time, a mecha passed by him at a very fast speed. Yang Mu immediately recognized that it was Shenlan's mecha. "Captain," Yang Mu immediately said loudly, but Shenlan did not make any response, but ran forward faster. She was running towards Liu Wei's direction at a fast speed. Seeing this, Yang Mu did not dare to neglect it, and also controlled the mecha to rush over. The saber-toothed lion was now pulling Liu Wei's mecha, and the black bug must be there. No matter what, Yang Mu followed, and his primary goal was to kill the bug and ease the crisis of the colony city. At the same time, The surrounding team members were constantly breaking free from the harassment of other creatures, and Chu Song broke free first and asked Yang Mu. Yang Mu, where are you going? Obviously Chu Song had seen Yang Mu running to one side. Liu Wei was dragged away by the saber-toothed lion. Follow me, Yang Mu said immediately when he saw Chu Song could help. Chu Song also started to control the mecha again at this time and went in the direction Yang Mu said. But just because of such carelessness, when Yang Mu turned around again, the figure of Shenlan's mecha in front of him disappeared. Yang Mu immediately looked at the radar, but found that the radar screen kept flashing, and there was no way to show the location of Shenlan and others. Chu Song, can you see the location of Shenlan's mecha? Yang Mu hurriedly asked Chu Song, but Chu Song was surprised the next moment. No, this radar suddenly had a problem, and I can't even mark my own position. Sure enough, this must be the bug's trick. Yang Mu immediately made his own judgment. Now that no one can check the situation, the bug must have done something. The electromagnetic shock released by the thermobaric bomb is impossible to cause such a big interference to this kind of military mecha. This is a bit bad. There is no way to determine the opponent's position. Now in the state of dust, how can I provide support immediately? Suddenly, Yang Mu's mind flashed with inspiration, and he immediately thought of the thermal imager. He turned on the image of the thermal imager, and immediately saw red lines in the air extending into the distance. Sure enough, the temperature of the gas emitted by the insect could not be dissipated all at once. Follow me, Yang Mu shouted loudly. Although Chu Song didn't know what Yang Mu had discovered, he still gritted his teeth and followed. The two mechas kept shuttling in the forest, and then the next moment the scene in front of them suddenly became clear. It turned out that the two people had come out of the dust-covered part, and a clear view of the mountains and forests suddenly appeared in front of them. Yang Mu looked around, looking in the direction of the smell, and then found something different under a tree. It was a mecha arm, which could be Liu Wei's mecha or Shenlan's mecha. Yang Mu suddenly became nervous, but for some reason, the communication channels of Shenlan and Liu Wei were silent at this time, and the radar still could not find their location. Yang Mu and Chu Song hurried forward and continued to search in this direction. The two walked for a while again, and suddenly saw a mecha lying not far away. Yang Mu rushed over immediately, but saw that it was Shenlan's model. At this moment, the front of the mecha had been scratched to pieces, and sparks flashed from all the parts. Fortunately, the cockpit did not seem to be damaged too much. Yang Mu immediately opened the cockpit and jumped down, climbed onto Shenlan's mecha, and opened the hatch, while Chu Song was on guard. As soon as the hatch opened, Yang Mu saw Shenlan, who was in a depressed state, and a puncture wound appeared on her abdomen, with blood reflecting a large area of red. It seemed that the mecha was damaged and the internal structure was broken, which injured Shenlan inside. Yang Mu, go quickly, go and save Zia Wei. After seeing the hatch open and seeing Yang Mu's face in the holographic helmet, Shenlan forced herself to be energetic and hurriedly urged Yang Mu to rescue Liu Wei, who was taken away by the saber-toothed lion. Captain, are you okay? It's okay, go quickly, I cut off one of its legs, it can't run far. Shenlan just kept urging Yang Mu to rescue. At this time, Chu Song, who was standing aside, walked forward in the mecha and said to Yang Mu and Shenlan, I don't think it's necessary. There is a dense primitive jungle there. If we go in, it will be very dangerous, Chu Song explained. Not far ahead, they will enter a forest that humans have not yet fully explored. If they rush in like this, it will be dangerous. Our mission has failed. Call for help. Chu Song said so, and his tone was also depressed. No, we can't give up like this, Yang Mu, I beg you. Hearing Chu Song say this, Shenlan in the cockpit was full of anxiety, and even put aside his identity as a captain to ask Yang Mu for rescue. The 13th team can't have any more deaths. The 13th team can't all die on this planet because of me, Shenlan said with a sad expression, but Yang Mu heard a different meaning. I have always been curious about Shenlan's attitude towards the 13th squad, which was once full of speculation and doubt. It turned out that in the eyes of the captain Shenlan, all the misfortunes that the 13th squad encountered one after another, and the deaths of the team members one by one, she felt that it was all because of herself. She blamed all of this on herself. The repeated loss of teammates made her choose to risk her life to save her teammates at all costs. The previous captain of the 13th squad died because of me, and after that, My team members also died here one by one because of my mistakes. It was all me, Shenlan said to Yang Mu with a crying voice. Yang Mu had never seen such an excited expression on his cold-faced captain. The uncertainty of the life and death of his teammates seemed to immediately detonate all the emotions that she had accumulated before. Yang Mu lowered his head, and the expression on his face became a little depressed. Yang Mu, you have to understand that it can be regarded as a team battle just now. If you go in like this now, you will be alone, and this will definitely kill people. Chu Song was still persuading Yang Mu. Yang Mu looked down at Shenlan in the cockpit and spoke slowly. Don't worry, Captain, leave it to me. After saying this, Yang Mu stood up, pulled out Shenlan's signal gun, closed the cockpit, and then stood on the mecha and fired a shot into the sky. Yellow sparks flashed in the sky, but Chu Song could not understand Yang Mu at all. Chapter 274 Different Guo Song. Yang Mu, this is not the time for you to show off your abilities, and this is not the time for anyone to be a coward or not. Looking at the flares flashing in the sky, Chu Song anxiously said to Yang Mu again, trying to make Yang Mu think about his decision again. And Chu Song's understanding is not without basis. Now there are only Yang Mu and his mecha here, and the rest of the team's mecha has not arrived yet. This requires time to wait, and by then, it will not be enough to support the search of this vast forest. And if you break into this forest alone now, the situation will be even worse. The power of one person, in this situation where the enemy is dark and I am bright, will put yourself in danger. Shenlan's mecha, which has completely lost its combat capability in front of him, is the best example. Even if he thinks he has outstanding combat capabilities, this is not the time to show off his abilities and be a hero. That's why Chu Song is so determined to show that this mission has failed, and it's better to wait for the follow-up arrangements. Chu Song's words rang again in Yang Mu's holographic helmet, but Yang Mu pretended that he didn't hear it. What Chu Song said was not without reason, but for Yang Mu, it seemed to carry a premise that he could never give up. That was to ensure his own life. Chu Song wanted to take this opportunity to get rid of the mecha group, and it was even more impossible for him to give up his life here, so he did these things, although they were reasonable and justifiable. Yang Mu did not reject the other party's advice. He also hesitated after seeing Shenlan's serious injuries. But in the end, Yang Mu still chose to accept Shenlan's request, although this request meant facing countless unknown dangers. Shenlan's desperate struggle for the misfortune of the 13th team made Yang Mu understand something again. This is his teammate. Although there is no life and death friendship, it is also his teammate. He once gave his back to the other party, and the other party was willing to believe in him. Although the time was not long, it was enough to have the word comrade in arms. From the moment Yang Mu realized that he had come back to this world, Yang Mu set a goal for himself, that is, never let the people around him die in vain. Yang Mu would not watch coldly as a Zerg he hated the most killed his teammates. The mature soul of 37 years old might be telling Yang Mu to be calm, but the hot blood in the 19-year-old body only told Yang Mu one thing. What are so many buts? Go to hell. He is the deputy captain, with a rank of junior lieutenant, and has this responsibility, and all this is enough to require him to make a choice. Yang Mu climbed onto the mecha without saying a word, restarted the mecha, and then turned the fuselage and went in the direction pointed by Shenlan. Chu Song, please help me get the captain out of here safely. Yang Mu just said this slowly, and then the mecha started to move, carrying his weapon and rushing out. Looking at Yang Mu's body getting farther and farther away, Chu Song's steps paused, his brows furrowed, and his expression was uncertain. The halberd-chopping mecha just stood in the forest without any movement until a moment later, the roar of the land aircraft engine came from the sky. Chu Song looked up at the sky, then looked down at Shenlan's mecha lying on the ground. Other teammates called out in the channel. They were looking for Chu Song's location. But Chu Song turned off the communication channel. There was a brief silence around, but a trace of hostility suddenly flashed across Chu Song's handsome and elegant face. The next moment, when he was sure that the land-based aircraft had found Shenlan's location, Chu Song controlled the mecha forward, took out the reserve energy battery of Shenlan's halberd-cutting mecha, and installed it on his own mecha. He stood up again. The engine of the land-based aircraft in the sky was bringing up a strong gust of wind. Chu Song sent Yang Mu's route to the team members, and then looked at the direction where Yang Mu disappeared. Chu Song, who had a serious and handsome face, was a little indignant and said to himself, "What a joke. When did I, Chu Song, become a coward in other people's eyes. After saying that, Chu Song's halberd-chopping mech suddenly leaned forward, and the engine behind him suddenly accelerated. Red flames suddenly spurted out, and white smoke rose around. The whole mech shot out like an arrow from a bow. The dark green figure turned into a green lightning at this moment, leaping forward between the mountains and forests, and the next moment rushed into the dense forest. In the previous valley, several mechas of the assault team were clearing out the wolf pack here, but they found that Yang Mu and others had left here, apparently to rescue the mech that was dragged away. Everyone also immediately prepared to go to support, but at this time, a message suddenly appeared in everyone's holographic helmets that the head of the group would arrive within 5 minutes to personally command the battle. The entire area has now become devastated by the war. The explosive power of the thermobaric bomb has gradually dissipated, but there has appeared a large pit with a diameter of more than 1 kilometer in that place. In addition to the red soil turned up by the explosion, nothing can be seen. At this time, the entire herd was divided into two parts. One part was retreating to support their leader, while the other part, the beasts that had already entered the colony city, were destroying everywhere. However, perhaps because they had lost the command of their leader, these things had become a little dizzy and were gradually surrounded and divided by the human army in the city. Several land aircraft of the Flying Regiment arrived just above the valley under the escort of fighter jets. 2 land aircraft slowly landed and hovered above the valley. Then 3 mechas fell from it. The leader was a heavy mecha with a different paint job from the standard mecha of the Mecha Regiment. The model was larger and tended to be a customized mecha. The whole body was painted in black and white, and it looked like a white-browed tiger with hanging eyes. So someone recognized this mecha at the first moment. This is the White Tiger mecha of the leader, the real core mecha of the entire regiment. The White Tiger mech that landed heavily on the ground stood up. The entire huge mech was as high as 10 meters, half a head taller than the other halberd mechas. Moreover, the 2 mechas that followed were specially made halberd mechas, which were taller than those of each team. Their weapons were not chain swords, but 2 long swords. Chu Zio's White Tiger mech stood up and slowly walked towards the already defeated mech team. At this time, the white paint on the mech body changed with the environment. Except for some edges that retained black and white lines. The paint on the entire mech had turned into camouflage. Where is Yang Yu? Where is Chu Song? Chu Zio checked the models of the mechas in front of him in the holographic helmet and asked. Richard, who was standing relatively close, stood up at this time and said loudly. Report to the captain, the leader creature escaped, Captain Yang and his men went to chase, and we were delayed. Richard was about to explain why he didn't catch up, but Richard interrupted. Richard, do you know their location? Seeing that the leader creature had not been eliminated and had escaped, Chu Zio's face suddenly became very unhappy and he asked. Richard also suddenly remembered, and then sent the location that Chu Song had just transmitted to Chu Zio. Looking at the location information sent, showing that the thing had run to farther forest, Chu Zio frowned even more. When leaving the headquarters, he hesitated again and still activated the thermobaric bomb, thinking to buy some time for himself, but he didn't expect Jing Yuang to die in vain in the end, and he couldn't hurt the creature. The next moment, Chu Zio didn't stay for long, and he controlled his mecha to return to the hovering land aircraft, and then ordered the land aircraft to go to the position marked on it. Richard and others standing on the ground looked at each other, and they were a little confused by the attitude of the head of the group, who didn't care. Kun Sang asked at this time, Richard, what should we do? Everyone was obviously concerned about this issue, and Richard looked at the land aircraft flying away in the sky and spoke immediately. What else can we do? Of course we have to follow them. We can't just leave the captain alone. After saying that, Richard controlled the mecha to move towards that location, and the other mechas followed the next moment. All the mechas moved towards that location as quickly as possible in the forest. Chapter 275, Joining Forces to Kill. Yang Yu carefully manipulated the mecha to move forward in this area with unusually dense vegetation, always alert to the surrounding situation, and at the same time, he pricked up his ears to listen to any possible movement around him. It had been more than 10 minutes since he rushed in, and when he arrived at this place, he also found that the red heat line was no longer thinking about extending into the depths of the forest, which indicated a phenomenon. That is, the insect must be somewhere here. Following the black bloodstains on the surrounding leaves, Yang Mu was unable to see more bloodstains behind, and Yang Mu became more determined in his idea. Understanding this, Yang Mu slowly straightened the body of the mecha, turned on all the detection instruments of the mecha, and scanned the surroundings in all directions. At the same time, the entire mecha was in a preheating state, and all weapons were ready. Yang Mu, suddenly, a faint voice came from the headset. Yang Mu reacted quickly and looked over there. Yang Mu recognized the owner of the voice, Liu Wei. The thing was hiding here, and it seemed that Liu Wei was fine. But Yang Mu did not relax his vigilance, still staring at the surroundings. Sure enough, when he made this slightly surprised action, there was a sudden noise in the jungle on the other side of him. Yang Mu's pupils suddenly swept across, and at the same time, his hands inserted in the control slots suddenly moved, and the entire mecha made a 90-degree turn on the spot. At the same time, the dragon-slaying arm drill and chain sword in Yang Mu's hand were already raised. At this time, a bloody mouth appeared in front of Yang Mu, with a pair of white, dead eyes. Yang Mu immediately recognized that this was the controlled saber-toothed lion. The rapidly rotating drill rushed up at the first time, and at this time, Yang Mu's mecha took a step back, resisting the body of his mecha, and directly resisted the opponent's attack. The drill hit the opponent's abdomen smoothly, but did not successfully lift the fur, and the drill just slid to the side. The saber-toothed lion jumped over Yang Mu, then flexibly passed Yang Mu, stopped behind him, and turned around the next moment to attack Yang Mu again. The auxiliary system almost instantly sent an alarm to Yang Mu, and at this time, Yang Mu twisted the mecha 180 degrees with his veins exposed, and this time the situation was obviously different. The attack of that thing had arrived, and Yang Mu's mecha was instantly kicked by the opponent's claws. Several sparks burst out on the chest of the entire mecha, and the entire mecha was hit and flew backwards. Yang Mu, who flew backwards, twisted his hands and feet calmly, and the engine behind him was fine-tuned. The whole thing didn't need to be readjusted the next moment, crashed into several trees, and then stopped. After experiencing the power of the saber-toothed lion again, Yang Mu suddenly felt a little shocked. The strength of this thing was completely different from the previous one. The attack was so powerful in an instant, and it was never dragged. And he didn't see the back of the thing's head even once from beginning to end. Could it be that the black bugs did this? Yang Mu stabilized the mecha, and this thought came to his mind, but he did not dare to be careless at all. He raised the weapon in his hand again, and this time, he took the lead in launching an attack. The saber-toothed lion saw Yang Mu's mecha rushing over, and without any fear, he roared directly and rushed up decisively. The next moment, the halberd mecha and the saber-toothed lion clashed with each other. Yang Mu swung the sharp drill and hit it hard, but the thing was very flexible. It actually used its claws to push it away when Yang Mu's weapon was swung, and then its whole body directly pounced on Yang Mu's mecha. The saber-toothed lion's front paws tightly held the mecha's head, and its two hind legs scratched fiercely. At this time, the armor on the abdomen of the entire mecha had already sounded the alarm. Yang Mu tried to swing the chain sword in his right hand to pick off the opponent, but the opponent had already pushed the entire mecha back, and his right arm was embedded in the fork of a tree. Yang Mu had no way to pull out the entire mecha arm in a short time. The whole situation has become precarious. Yang Mu struggled hard, but he could only watch the abdominal armor being destroyed little by little. If this continues, it won't take long for this mecha to break all the armor in front like Shenlan's mecha, and then the entire mecha will be paralyzed. Yang Mu tried to seek help from the mecha's hot weapons, but found that all the bullet slots had been emptied long ago. In just a moment, he was trapped in such a passive situation. Yang Mu felt cold sweat all over his body at this moment. But at this moment, there was a noise from the left of Yang Mu, and then in the next moment, a mecha rushed out directly from it, and the drill with a cold light directly rubbed the spine of the saber-toothed lion from one side, and the saber-toothed lion instantly let go of Yang Mu in pain. Mr. Yang, I've already told you that it's fatal to come here alone. Fierce words came from the channel, but Yang Mu had a relaxed smile on his face. It was Chu Song, this guy, who really followed me. I'm waiting for you to save my life, Yang Mu said happily, but he immediately manipulated the mecha to make new moves, looking at the saber-toothed lion in front of him. Damn, I'm risking my life, Yang Mu, don't let me die. I still have a good future to fight for. Chu Song risked his life at this moment, and he said happily, looking very cheerful. The saber-toothed lion jumped to the side, with blood flowing from its back, and then roared loudly. Don't worry, this guy bites probably called out all the beasts here, and now, There may not be any beasts that will respond to him. Hearing the loud roar of the saber-toothed lion, Chu Song suddenly became nervous again, and at this time Yang Mu was comforting the other party. Because he had followed all the way here, according to the creature's temperament, it would definitely find a way to summon some beasts to stop him, but from beginning to end, Yang Mu did not encounter any large creatures. That means there are no beasts that can be controlled by it now, but this guy is also stupid, panicking and choosing such a direction to escape. Hearing this explanation, Chu Song was relieved. The two of them informed each other and rushed towards this thing again. The two mechas attacked, although the insect controlled a 4th-level creature saber-toothed lion, but it had been injured before. Now both Yang Mu and Chu Song's mechas have dragon-slaying arms that can break its defense. In addition to Yang Mu and Chu Song's excellent mecha driving skills, the saber-toothed lion actually began to lose the upper hand. Aim at its neck, Yang Mu once again manipulated the mecha to provoke, and at this time Chu Song had already stuck the opponent's claws with his chain sword, and immediately shouted loudly to Yang Mu. Yang Mu's face was calm and he swung his arm with full concentration. The drill of the dragon-slaying arm hit the opponent's neck smoothly the next moment. The sharp drill worked this time and went straight in. Seeing this, Yang Mu also hurriedly exerted force to try to expand the victory. The saber-toothed lion seemed to know this situation. The insect at the neck tried to break free from the back of the saber-toothed lion, but Chu Song didn't care at this time. He gave up his weapon and knelt on the ground directly. He hugged the saber-toothed lion's neck with his arms and pressed down the black insect to prevent the insect from drilling out immediately. Yang Mu's drill had already penetrated more than half of it at this time. Seeing this situation, the chainsaw instantly unfolded, twisting a bloody mess, and the limbs of the insect that penetrated into the saber-toothed lion's brain were also twisted off. Chu Song grabbed the thing with his hands at the first time. But the next moment, a piercing scream came from the mouth of the black bug, and the buzzing sound echoed in the minds of the two people. Chu Song suddenly couldn't stand it. He was worried that the other party would break free, so he unconsciously increased the strength in his hand. Let go. Leave it. Yang Mu saw Chu Song's movements in a trance and shouted immediately, but Chu Song had already manipulated the mecha arm to crush the thing into a pile of black meat paste. That thing was unexpectedly weak. High temperature, calm, prepare to change the map. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.